Hello, friends. Welcome back to Pick and Roll with Carter and Kody. This is Season 2, Episode 2, March Madness Bracket Breakdown 2024. I am, of course, your host, Kody Webb, and I am jacked to be here today. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite episodes we do all year long, so I'm very looking forward to it. And, of course, I am joined with my co-host. He is the Cam Spencer to my Donovan Clingan, Mr. Carter Sims. How you doing today, Carter?
Damn it. You had to make me Cam Spencer. Ah,
I thought about Newton, but Spencer's a dog, so I
that's all
respect.
right. I can be a cold ass white boy today. Happy to be here. Excited to talk bracket. Excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. And of course, we do have an esteemed guest with us. He was on the episode last year, and we had to bring him back. My good friend, Aidan Cotter. Welcome back to the episode, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I had so much fun last year. Need to come back and talk some more ball with you guys. If you guys are Klingen and Spencer, am I just like one of the Hurley sons, one of the walk-ons?
You can be Danny if you want. We'll give you Klingon. I mean, he's a good role player. Or I
You could
Yeah,
mean,
be you could be Bill Murray's
Harrison.
son.
I think I'll take that. I'll take that.
Huge.
And also too, I wanted to mention Aiden, since you came on last year, you've actually almost like become a professional in this category. Of course, now a writer for Fanduel, which is awesome. Do you think like your new work has improved your bracket predicting skills, or how do you think that's going to play in?
Yeah, we'll see. It definitely has improved my ability to bet games, at least during the regular season. I'm a little skeptical. I'm worried it might be a little overload on information, just the amount of stuff we've been sifting through this week. But I think I'm a little more prepared this year, so it should be good. I'll have to listen back after the end of it and see how I did compared to last year.
Yeah, a quick tangent I want to mention too, but I was listening to our episode last year, and you had like a mortal lock that Zona was going to cover, which I thought was really funny. But also last weekend to hype you up too, you sent me over your betting line, and you were 7 for 7 on one day. So
Sheesh.
yeah, kids, if you're listening, go check out Aiden, obviously. But I'm excited to hear your picks. I think it will be interesting. But amazing, man. So we can jump straight in this. Like I mentioned off the top, I mean, we're just going to be going through pretty much game by game and giving you our thoughts. But first off, I did want to kind of just cover what happened in the conference tournament structure because it was absolute mayhem. And we talked a little bit, Carter, about bid steals in our episode last week. And pretty much every single conference that we had mentioned did end up getting a bid steal. So I wanted to go over those pretty quickly. I think the most egregious one was probably the American Conference, where a really kind of bad regular season Temple team took out the supposed champs, FAU Owls, and then they ended up losing to the UAB Blazers. So that was a big one. All these as well really affected the bubble teams. And then the other kind of big shocker was the A10, the Atlantic 10. Uh, Aiden, I just want to hear your thoughts on that. Dayton got bounced early, Loyola got bounced early, Richmond got bounced early. It was mayhem, but I want to hear your thoughts on Dayton.
The A10 went exact as how I had expected it to. I mean, we just can't have nice things in this conference. I always tell Kody, I compare it. It's like the mid-major Big Ten, where we just beat the crap out of each other all year, and
Mm.
nobody ends up with a very good record. I guess Purdue excluded, but everyone just ends up with pretty similar record, and then kind of all hell breaks loose once the conference tournament starts. Can't say I was just surprised to see Duquesne win. I mean, they had played us tough twice during the year. Even I think we won both games by double digits. But I mean, they have two guards. Day Grant is an absolute dog. So wasn't super surprised. It's cool to see Dayton did everyone a favor. Getting A10 as a two bid league is all I have to say. So
Shout out to the Flyers. The field appreciates it. And then the other two tournaments, the bigger tournaments that had bid steals, was the Pac-12. The last Pac-12 tournament ever went to the Oregon Ducks, surprisingly. Zona choked again, which may be a reoccurring theme. And of course, the ACC even had a bid steal. Carter, your boy DJ Burns, who you gave the hoopy to, went off. What
Let's
did you
go.
yeah.
Yeah, I watched most of these games actually because I think I mentioned on the last episode, I watched one NC State game in person just by chance this past year. And yeah, I may still be high on them when we get into the bracket. Who's to say? But man, what a wild tourney run they went on, beating Duke, Virginia, and North Carolina to get there. And they who was the first game they played? I don't even remember who the first game was,
It
but
was
they beat them too.
It was Louisville. They were tied with
Well,
Louisville with 4 minutes to go, and they ended up winning the entire thing. A crazy shot as well to force overtime against Virginia. We might have
yeah.
to include that clip in because it was bonkers. But yeah, it was absolute mayhem, and I don't expect anything less. the thing as well that I wanted to touch on super quickly is some of the teams who kind of got hurt by that. Uh, Basically, just everybody on the bubble. So, who got left out? Indiana State was a big one. I was kind of a big proponent for them last week, and I feel pretty bad.
Mhm.
Seton Hall, who, again, Oklahoma, both of those I feel like were pretty solidly in before kind of all this happened. And then more bubble teams, notably the Big East, St. John's, also Pitt, I feel pretty bad for. But just like general bubble talk, I wanted to throw it to you, Carter, first. But do you think there's anybody specifically who should have gotten in who did not get in?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head with Indiana State. First of all, just I've always been a big proponent of this, but screw the net. Even if because we're not going to use it, then just get rid of it because Indiana State is the first team when the net was introduced, the first team ever to be in the top 30 and miss the tournament. That's some BS. So if we're gonna use the net so hard and rely on the net so much in our selection, then let's do it or just get rid of it. So same thing with St. John's. I mean, St. John's kind of went on a tear to end the year in the Big East, even though the Big East ended up being just a 3-bid league. But yeah, they missed out too. I think they were like number 32 or around that mark as well. So had Indiana State made it in, then St. John's would have been the highest net ranked team there. So yeah, those were the two biggies. I know the Indiana State hopes were crushed when Drake won, but I think we were all still kind of secretly hoping. But yeah, it was sad to see. So I would say objectively that the selections committee did not get it right on a few instances here, I would say.
I agree too. I mean, they're definitely put in a tough spot with all the bid steals. But yeah, that is crazy statistically. Indiana State is the highest net ranking ever to be left out of the tournament, which is just sad for a mid-major, I think. And yeah, you mentioned, dude, the Big East only got 3 bids, which I feel like is pretty crazy. Providence, another team I was thinking of who
Yeah.
beat Creighton in the conference tournament, and we're not even close to consideration. My big one I'll throw out there, I think Oklahoma was robbed. I really don't know how they didn't get in over Virginia or even Michigan State, who is a much higher seed. But again, going back to the net rankings, the only reason Michigan State has such a high net ranking is because they beat Baylor by 30 in the non-conference. But they lost everybody else. They have like 14 or 13 losses, I think. So pretty strange there. But yeah, the Sooners got screwed. They lost fairly early in the Big 12 tournament, and it wasn't even like a notable upset. So I feel bad for them. I think they should be in, and they were riddled by injuries, which was a bet that Aiden told me about too. But any standouts to you here, Aiden?
I definitely agree. Oklahoma feels like the best team that
Yeah.
got left out, just all things considered. But I also kind of dug their own grave. I mean, I'm sure they didn't anticipate so many bid stealers, but their coach, what is his name? Oh my goodness, he'll be at
I,
DePaul
I,
soon.
He's a mid-major guy.
Loyal, yeah, he was used to be the loyal coach.
Yeah.
oh yeah, Moser, Porter Moser.
Yeah, Porter
Yeah.
Moser came out and
Good ball.
said that they were sitting a decent amount of their guys in against TCU in the Big 12 tournament because they knew that they were locked into the field and they wanted to rest
Woof.
up. And to be fair, like I think they were like 18-6 before they started getting hurt, which it's kind of goes back to what Carter said is I would love some more consistency from the committee. Like they came out and said that they were recognizing that Kansas had these injuries when they were seeding, but then obviously you can't do that for every team. They obviously did not do that for Oklahoma. And so it just seems like there's no consistency from team to team and year to year. Indiana State sucks. I mean, especially for mid majors, like they deserve to get in. I think America deserved to have Robbie in the field.
Yeah.
Just very disappointing to not see them. But I also feel like the committee they're going to get out a little easy just because there were so many bid steals. Like
Yeah.
there were going to be so many teams. It's not like there was like one obvious egregious team that didn't make it. So they almost got out a little easy that way. But I'm just worried this is going to lead to more expansion talk. Like, oh, we had so many good teams miss the
Ah,
field. Like we have to add 8 more teams, 10 more teams, get to 96. And I can already see that becoming a discussion after the season.
I was gonna say that as well. I really am strongly against that, but I would be shocked if there's not a lot more talk, especially after this year. I think we mentioned this last week too, but the transfer portal I think opens up for just the depth of teams to be a little bit stronger. But I don't really want an expansion, if I'm being completely honest.
We got to push that back too. We got to push back the transfer portal window. I
Dude,
mean,
Alabama just got somebody today.
I know,
They
like we
So did
can't do
Missouri.
that.
Yeah,
they're in the tournament.
there's been a
Yeah,
ton of movement.
they
It's
picked up
crazy.
that Pepperdine guard and like, yeah, like at least get through I don't know, the first week. So then like teams that have just left the tournament can start like prepping for next year at the very least, because it's just taking away from all the narratives and everything. So yeah, there's a lot going on. And to your point about the 96 teams, I think like everyone in the country, except for the selections committee, is against it. So it's just like, it's, I don't get it. It's a perfect setup. And there's a reason that bubble talk is fun every year. Of course, there's always going to be people left out. So it's a shame. And then, they come back with a fire next year and that makes it exciting. So I don't know, but we have what we have.
True. Yeah, I think there's no perfect system, but it's pretty perfect right now. So I say we keep it that way. But amazing boys. So I say we just jump straight into the bracket altogether. Obviously, you have four regions to break down here, and we're pretty much just gonna go game by game. We'll start off in the East, which I think is for me one of the deepest and the most tough regions. And pretty much off the top two, we'll kind of talk about the interesting round one matchups. That tends to be obviously the closer seeded teams, the 8-9, 7-10, and 6-11, and then we'll work our way into some more upsets. But the game we're going to kick it off here in the East is, of course, that 8-9 matchup. It's one of my favorites of the entire first round. It's going to be the FAU Owls taking on the Northwestern Wildcats, which I'll start off with my thoughts off the bat here, but I think it's going to be a great game. It's kind of the idea for me of which FAU are we going to see, because I feel like their run to the Final Four last year versus most of the games I've seen of them recently this year are very, very different. I mean, they still have a very good offense. Their defense has never been, too elite. But when you have like John L. Davis and Elijah Martin, even Vlad Golden has played well. I think it's going to be tough to stop. Northwestern, though, is super strong defensively. Obviously, they as well have three-time Hoopie winner Boo Booey to kind of back them. And I believe they should be a little bit healthier. I think Nicholson should be back, which will be a key matchup against Golden. I don't know, boys. This is I love the 8-9 games because it's 50-50. Carter, what's your thoughts, man?
First of all, I think FAU is ranked too high.
Yeah.
I don't think they deserve that 8 line, which kind of shocked me a little bit. So for that reason specifically, and because of our 3-time Hoopie winner Boo Booey, we're very high on him in March. I just feel like he's got that dog in him. So I have picked, and might be the Big Ten bias as well. So I'm taking the Wildcats to move on, but this is going to be a really fun game, I would think. But what about you, Aiden? Are you leaning a different way?
I want to pick Northwestern so badly. Just Boo's last run. I think he just deserves a moment in the tournament. I mean, they won a game last year, but I don't know. I feel like a guy of his caliber who's been at the same school for 5 years, like you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really cool, and I will definitely be rooting for Northwestern. I'm just worried we're just gonna like we've seen FAU just flip the switch, right? We've seen them beat good teams. They beat Arizona in that crazy overtime game early in the season. Like
Yeah.
it's largely the same team as last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're able to just flip a switch. I definitely agree that they were overseeded for how they played this year. I'm so in between. I think I lean FAU here. I think I don't know for sure. Kody, you had mentioned Nicholson's injury. I don't know for sure if they've said he's going to play or not. I would assume he is, considering he didn't play in the Big Ten tournament. But I feel like that is definitely the matchup to watch is him down low up against Golden, because Golden has been so good this year.
I think the paint is going to be massive here. I mean, both these teams can chuck threes pretty consistently and do pretty well, but I think offensive rebounding, like I said, hopefully Nicholson's back. I am also leaning the Owls' way here as well. Again, maybe just biased because I love their run from last year. I kind of want to see it happen again, especially matching up with UConn in the second round. But this will be a great one. I think, like I said, this is one of the games I'm most excited for. So Jack, for that, we can keep chugging along here. The 7-10 matchup I like a lot here in this region too. It is Wazoo, Washington State, back in the tourney after a long break in between, and matching up against the Drake Bulldogs, who we talked about last week. The MVC champs took down Indiana State in the conference championship. I'll throw it back over to you, Aiden. What do you like about this matchup?
This has got to be like probably my favorite 7-10. Just both of these teams are so easy to root for. I mean, Washington State, kind of like South Carolina, picked like towards the bottom of their conference before the season. They're like one of the only two teams that didn't bail on the Pac-12, so it's pretty easy for me to root for them. Big Pac-12 guy. You got Miles Rice, like coming back from cancer and just being
Yeah.
so good right away like this. It's so hard not to root for them. But man, it feels like Drake has unfinished business. I mean, after losing last year the way they did, having Tucker and his dad, like it's really hard to win over that father son combination for me. I'm a big like anti coach's son guy, but that dude's just a hooper. I think they're going to be probably the most popular 10 seed, I would guess. Guess we'll get to Nevada a little later, but I definitely lean Drake here. I would not be surprised if Washington State pulls this out, but I do think I have to go for the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Not a big Doug McDermott guy, I guess.
No.
Fair enough.
Not a
Well,
big Steven Izzo guy.
ooh,
That's a little different. Him and the Hurley kids are those are my guys.
Yeah, yeah, there we go.
respect there. I assume you're riding with Drake here as well, Carter.
I am, and for all the reasons that Aidan mentioned too. This is definitely my favorite 10 seed, I would say, as well. And Drake's actually favored 1.5 right now. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with them as well. But again, I love the Washington State story. Just both teams you want to root for, and you just hate that they're up against each other. Yeah, I've got Drake here, and I like the Bulldogs.
I mentioned last episode too, if Indiana State did get in, I like the MVC to both win a game.
Mm,
I'm sticking with that. I'm riding with the Bulldogs. Like you mentioned, I mean, Tucker DeVries, their draw last year, they drew Miami as a 5 seed, which is a brutal draw. So I think this year they definitely match up a little bit better with Washington State. I think the size of Washington State's front court could be a problem. I don't think Drake has that deep of a bench, but I think Tucker DeVries, well, DeVries, whatever his name is, I don't know, but he's going to carry. I think. I'll get to obviously some betting predictions later, but Tucker's points I would go hard over there for sure. So the last good matchup here, the 6-11 game here in the East. Oh, we're going right back to the A10 here. We're going BYU, Duquesne. Is that how you say it too? Is it Duquesne? Is that right?
Duquesne, yeah.
Duquesne. All right, I need to get that right. But I'll tell you what, man. I'll start off here because I mentioned in our last episode, I think BYU is pretty fraudulent. But the problem is, I don't like Duquesne either. I think this is my least favorite game of the slate, which is unfortunate. A really funny thing I was looking into as well, the committee on Saturday night basically had this slot taken for the A10 for a bid steal. But I think they assumed that VCU was going to win. And then
mm,
when Duquesne won, they did not move them back down where they probably should be ranking. So the teams that they are above here would be Grand Canyon, McNeese, and James Madison, which those three teams combined actually have less losses than Duquesne does on the season. Those three teams have 10 losses collectively, and Duquesne has 11. Obviously, the A10 is a good conference, so I think that's the easy boost here. But even though BYU is fraudulent, I think I'm going to ride with them here. I'll throw it over to you, and I know you know this team a lot better than me.
Yeah, I mean that is just pure laziness by the committee. That is the most obvious right away. When you see Duquesne getting 11, like what are we doing here? I know Kody, you're a big BYU hater, going
Yeah,
back to just your hate for West Coast mid major teams in general.
he
true.
hates Mormons, is actually why.
I like this BYU team. They kind of got exposed against Texas Tech. I did not love to see that. It kind of had me simmered my excitement on them a little bit. What I do like about Duquesne is Duquesne can just slow it down and muck it up and just make things so dirty. And they have their two guards that, like we say, guards in March. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a closer game than people expect. I don't know if I would take them to cover. I think it's like 9.5, something like that. It feels a little low just based on Duquesne's total body of work. They've been playing really well. They're like 9-1 their last 10 games. Obviously, they won the A10 tournament. I think I'm going to take BYU, but would not be shocked whatsoever if Duquesne pulled off an upset. I mean, we saw, I think it was like 2 years ago, the same thing in the A10 happened. Richmond won, and they played that Iowa team that had just won the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
And everyone was kind of like sleeper team, going to the Elite Eight, going to the Final Four. And then Richmond just came out and smacked them. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but put a little respect in the A10. I think Duquesne has something to play for. And it's what's his name? Dan, for his final season, he announced that he's retiring. LeBron James is a former high school coach.
Yeah.
Dan Brott, good coach. He was at Akron for a while and they never did too much, but there's a great documentary about Braun, and he actually he had a good influence over him. So respect to him. I think the big thing here too is if you look at like the halftime point total, I think it'll be very telling. If it's a high scoring game, obviously BYU can really rein in the threes. But if it's like 25-25 at half, I might live bet Duquesne because if it's a low scoring game, I think they can grind it out. But Carter, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm with you guys on the Cougars. If I'm using the eye test, I watched that A10 championship game. I hadn't watched VCU or Duquesne play all year, and I was like, "Is this basketball?" Like this was one of the ugliest second halves I've ever watched in my life. And I was like, "Man, IU could do well in the A10. I think this is where we belong." So yeah, I wasn't high on either of these teams, whichever one was coming out on top. So yeah, I'm gonna ride with the Cougars for at least a game. But yeah, shout out to Coach Dambro, who they just kept showing they just kept showing his wife on the screen and just kept saying Keith's wife. I'm like, okay, why though? Why are we just calling him Keith's wife? It was really strange, all of it. And they dropped the confetti, and it was a whole thing. It was a crazy game.
Yeah.
And that's basketball. I'm going with BYU.
Yeah, the confetti guy, his job is definitely in jeopardy, I would say. Fun A10 final. We can go to the next bigger section here, talking about more of the higher seeds, talking about some upsets. And of course, I mean, the classic upset that we can always start off with is my favorite, the 12-5 matchup. But I'll say too, just a preface altogether with upsets. I think in past tournaments, maybe the odds for upsets seemed a little bit higher. I feel like for maybe some of these games, it was like maybe 1 out of 5 times you're gonna get an upset. I feel like it's a little bit closer, maybe like 1 out of 3 times. So I may be a bit upset heavy this year,
Oh
just
baby,
that. But
love it.
this 12-5 matchup is actually pretty interesting. Obviously, we have the San Diego State Aztecs, which is another tough draw for this region. And then we mentioned them already, the American Bid Steelers, the UAB Blazers, slotted in at a 12 seed here. I'll throw it back over to you, Carter. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I could definitely see where someone would want to take the 12-5 upset here. But wasn't it last year 0 for 4 the 12 seeds were against 5 seeds?
Yeah, and San Diego
Um,
State was a 5 seed last year too.
and San Diego State was the 5 seed. And now I know the stat that a 5 seed has never won the national championship over. Also, been hearing that all day today. So I know people are gonna want to lean towards UAB, but like you said, I don't think they're a very good team really. And I am riding high on the Aztecs just of like I don't want to say they have unfinished business. Part of me is like maybe they've already feel like they've done it last year, and so they'll maybe just I don't know. I don't think they're going to make it to the national championship by any means, but I think they'll at least get past this 5-12 to kind of prove people wrong and to maybe try to be like we're going to make another run. But yeah, I like the Aztecs here, and I gave a hoopie to their star here. They were super seniors, so I'm going to ride with the Aztecs
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that both them and FAU are in the same region this year. Obviously, both Final Four teams last year.
and UConn.
Also, yeah, 3 Final Four teams last year, which is insane. But they all have like very similar seeding. I think FAU was a 9 seed, and then obviously UConn was a 4 seed last year.
Yeah.
But interesting matchups regardless. I think I agree with you, Carter. I definitely like San Diego State here. UAB, like athleticism wise, I think they are impressive. If you've seen the highlights from that Temple championship game, they were throwing lobs off the backboard like middle second half. So I love that from them. But yeah, I think they're like 262 in the country defensive ranking. And I think San Diego State is going to jump all over that. Yeah, watch out for Jaden Ledee, obviously, like you mentioned. And then their backcourt is obviously very experienced. Butler, who hit that big shot, and then Trammell, who I think is decent as well. So I think for me, spoiler alert, this is going to be the only 12 seed I don't really love. Aiden, do you feel differently about the Dragons here?
So I did a 12-5. I like ranked the 12-5 upsets, like most likely to least likely to occur on Monday morning. And I had UAB as the least likely upset. And I just started looking into them a little bit more. I don't know. I kind of like UAB here. They
Oh,
won all three AAC games by double digits in the
yeah.
tournament. And you go back to their non-con, they beat Drake, they beat FAU, they beat Maryland, which like, okay, not great wins, but lost to Clemson by 1. San Diego State hasn't been, I think, as impressive. I feel like a lot of their name is holding them up from last year. I mean, obviously they made it to the Mountain West final, lost to New Mexico. I'm just worried about their perimeter game. Like, I know they have good guards, but can they shoot well enough to beat a UAB team that plays a lot of zone and like mixes it up a lot and kind of just packs it in? I think I do. I think UAB is like the 12 seed. I'm kind of like circling. I think they're the one that's going to fly under the radar. And the way that I play March is what does everyone else think is going to happen? It's going to be the complete opposite. I think I'm going to take UAB here. I really do.
Ooh,
I've been
let's
coming around on
go.
them the last like 24, 48 hours. And I just love teams that play different than other teams. And they just run this like 2-2, this 2-2-1 full court. And then they like will switch between the 1-3-1 and the 2-3. And I don't know how much San Diego State's really seen that. And obviously, if they can shoot, if they're making their outside shots against that zone, I think they're going to be fine. But I don't really have a lot of confidence in that. So I'll take UAB here. I'll go away from the crowd.
I love it.
Love that. Mountain West disrespect early. I did pick against San Diego State last year and it burned me. So hopefully it's the same for you. But we can keep moving along here. Another really fun matchup, I think, for the 13-4 game is, of course, the Auburn Tigers, who are the SEC tournament champions, against the Yale Bulldogs, who also had a very dramatic Ivy League final on a buzzer beater, which is pretty cool. But we can get back over to you, Carter. What are your thoughts on this game, man?
A spoiler alert, but I'm really high on the Auburn Tigers right now.
Mm.
And it's not even about their style of play. It's not even about their like margin of victory. It's about Bruce Pearl winning for his dad. And so I am just fully on the storyline train here. I think that he is gonna come in firing like that 2019 year where Kyle Guy made the three free throws and the foul free throws and all that. So I think that there's some unfinished business from even all that long ago. Yeah, I'm ready to kind of ride with the Tigers down the stretch. And now I know Yale is a really tough draw. I watched that game. Also, speaking of free throws, didn't the Brown guy didn't he miss two free throws to kind of
Oh yeah.
lock it up and
Okay.
big choke? So that's unfortunate. So I think Yale's lucky to even be here. So maybe they're going to be firing because of that. Kind of that. Let's prove that we're here. So I am a little scared for it, but I feel like Auburn can get past that, then there'll be a fun 5-4 matchup with the Aztecs or in Aiden's world, the UAB. So, yeah, I'm going to ride with Auburn.
Yeah, I think I agree for this round for sure. I mean, Auburn's offense is obviously kind of this next level. I feel like compared to Yale, like you mentioned, too, I mean, 2019 when they did make that run, they also won the SEC tournament that year, so I think they could be dangerous. Um, they also have kind of insane depth. They pretty much play like 9, 10 guys consistently. Um, and defensively, they're actually pretty good as well, which is scary. The thing I don't like about them, I'm kind of an Auburn hater to show my cards. Um, I don't know, just the way they play, I feel like they're like Christian Laettner personified. Like every game, they're just like trying to get under your skin and piss you off and let you make a mistake.
Mm,
Which I mean is fine, but the SEC tournament, specifically a game against like South Carolina, they were just like unbelievably physical down low. So I mean, we talked about this with Big Ten refs. Who knows how they're going to call these games? But I think if they do come out and play like that again, they could get in foul trouble early. But again,
fair.
they kind of have the depth to combat that, which is nice. But like you said too, I mean, Yale, they kind of snuck in. They probably should have lost to Brown. So I do like Auburn here, and when Auburn wins, they win big too. So I think their cover will be pretty free overall here. But Aiden, what do you think about the Tigers, man?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. This Auburn team, like they've kind of like bounced around, hovering around the top like 15 for the last whatever 3 months. I guess I didn't realize just how strong their metrics are. So we have the stats called Nerd. It's just basically what a team's point differential would be against an average team on a neutral floor. So just trying to make things all equal, like who are the best teams in the country just based on their numbers. Auburn's Nerd is fifth in the country, and they are by that statistic the most underseeded team in the tournament. In a normal year, like the average one seed has a lower Nerd than what they have right now, which is
Hmm,
just kind of crazy. Like you said, Kody, like when they win, they just win big,
Yeah.
right? Like they can really just pour it on teams. Don't think they're gonna have a problem with Yale. Like you said, they're just so physical. No offense to Yale. We saw Princeton, I guess, absolutely burn me on my lock of the century last year with Arizona. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ivy League battle a little bit, but this Auburn team they're tough, man. I'm kind of in on Bruce Pearl this year.
Well, big ups to the Tigers. Yeah, and I think the thing that hurts them too is their non-conference schedule wasn't crazy good. We mentioned last week they annihilated IU, which was probably their best win in the non-conference. But Janai Broom's a difference maker. Their guards are very fast and they can pretty much all shoot. So they're dangerous. But we can keep chugging along. Obviously the 3, 2, 1 seeds. I don't know if we'll see a ton of upsets, but we can run through these fairly quickly. The 3-14 matchup is, of course, the Illinois Illini going up against Morehead State, which I think is an interesting matchup. just because of kind of the differing sort of play styles. Obviously, Illinois, top five offense. I mean, you got Terrence Shannon, you got Marcus Damask. Pretty tough to stop. I would say that's almost an unstoppable duo, especially the way Shannon's been playing. But Morehead State, they pace of play is very, very slow, and they have a top 50 defense. So I don't know if they can control the pace. I don't know. I kind of like Morehead State a little bit here. And honestly, too, if Illinois drew any other bracket, I would probably be putting them straight into the Final Four. But again, with kind of the depth that we've seen here in the East, I don't know if I love their chances, even though they are an offensive juggernaut. But I'll kick it back over to you, Aiden. Do you like the Illini?
I do. Like you said, Morehead State plays super slow. Pretty good offensive rebounding team, but I don't know. I just think that step up in competition is going to be a little too much. There's like the stat going around about how the Big Ten tournament winner has done in the last couple of years, and spoiler alert, they haven't done very well. But I don't know how much you should like place into stuff like that. I don't think that's such just like a small sample of teams. Like you said, this Illinois offense is like they might be the best offense in the country right now, just the way they're playing. I mean, Terrence Shannon in that Big Ten tournament was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think they roll. Maybe Morehead State keeps it close, like keeps it kind of low scoring in the 30s in the first half, but I don't know how long they're gonna be able to contain that offense.
Yeah, I agree. And to delve into that Big Ten stat a little bit more too, I went back and basically it was like the last 4 years. So it hasn't been that long because it was the COVID cutoff. And then, well, before COVID, Michigan State won the Big Ten tournament. They actually took down Zion's Duke to go to the Final Four. So obviously a very, very good run there. And then it was COVID year. And then Illinois won it and they lost to Loyola in the second round. Also, Ohio State was in the championship and they lost to Oral Roberts first round, which is pretty funny. And the next year you mentioned Iowa lost to Richmond, and then of course Purdue lost to FDU. So it's only a 3 year streak, really. I don't think that's like a massive kind of scary thing or anything like that. I think it will get broken this year. Spoiler alert. But Carter, what's your thoughts on?
Yeah, I will say that I think it will be broken this year, but not by Purdue. So I think Illinois is
Oh,
I don't know. I'm also high. I've got Purdue going. We'll get to Purdue in a bit, but yeah, I got them going some ways. But yeah, I got the Illini kind of rolling here a little bit past Moorhead and then even further down. So I just think they're hot right now. I always like taking the teams that are hot coming out of their tourneys. And, sometimes that means it's the championship winner, which, that stat may not prove likely, but it's got to be the year. This year's got to be the year. I'll say that. And I said that for 4 years. So we'll see.
I think if Wisconsin had won, then I would definitely be saying that. But shout out
Fair.
to Illini. They are
Yeah.
gross. But we can keep moving. The 2 seed here is the Iowa State Cyclones, which I did want to talk about their ranking off the bat too. But they are playing the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, which are a tournament favorite of mine. Just a great mascot. Shout out Baylor Shireman as well. But the Cyclones, they got the last 2 seed here, which I was pretty shocked by. So they're the number 8 overall ranked team by the committee, even though they beat Houston by 30 in the Big 12 championship game. And I'll throw it to you because we were talking a little bit about it, but what do you think about the seating, man? I think that's pretty strange.
Again, I think it's just the committee being lazy. Like it almost feels like they had 90% of the bracket filled out on Friday.
Yeah.
Like it just seems like the Saturday, Sunday games did not matter at all.
Yeah.
Like I just don't see a world where North Carolina loses to NC State in the championship and Iowa State smacks Houston. Like doesn't just beat Houston, just blows them off the floor and they don't get a seed bump. And not only that, but they're in the seed with the number one overall in the region with the number one overall seed. That is just crazy to me. That being said, Iowa State is fraudulent. Um,
Whoa.
they are not a team I am going to be picking to go very far. I don't think they're going to have a problem with South Dakota State. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be the guy that's trying to pick out these 15 and these 16 seeds to win. I just think you're fighting a losing battle and wasting your time there. Just enjoy it while it happens. I'm assuming they roll here, but the rest of the way, I don't know. It's a tough region. And historically, it's funny because like you don't want to put a whole lot of stock in the AP poll, but time and time again, one of the best predictors of March Madness success is your preseason ranking in the AP poll, which is pretty crazy. Like we saw this with Marquette as a 2 seed last year, where Marquette was unranked to begin the season and then just shot up the polls. And then, yeah, I mean, they had a tough draw with Michigan State as the 7 there, but it's not like that was a great Michigan State team. And I'm kind of feeling the same vibes with this Iowa State team, especially coming off this Houston win. I feel like they're going to be like very publicly supported. So I'm definitely trying to fade the Cyclones down the stretch, but not against South Dakota State.
I love that. Play the fraudulent alarm.
Fraud alert. Fraud alert.
It is interesting because obviously, I mean, their defense is elite. I mean, we can start talking about the forward matchups here as well, but they play Drake or Wazoo next. But then if they both went out, they would play Illinois, which I think would be an insane matchup. Just because obviously Iowa State's defense, I mean, it's top two in the country. It's pretty disgusting. And I mean, they did just annihilate like one of the best teams in the country. I don't know. It's tough, but I might put a couple bucks on South Dakota State after that. But Carter, do you like the upset here? What are you thinking, man?
No, I don't, but I agree with everything Aiden said. I'm also not very high on the Cyclones here. Crazy that this is the seeding. I don't know if there's a world where they take Houston's number one seed or if they take North Carolina's. I don't know if the committee loves having two Big 12 teams in there, Big 12 C's at the top spot. And again, I think that's just because of laziness. But yeah, I'm rolling with the Cyclones here. But yeah, looking forward, I do have Drake beating my Cyclones in
Ooh.
the
I absolutely love
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I got that in the round of 32. So yeah, I think their season's going to come to an end quick, and I'm ready to be proven wrong, I guess. But I'm riding high for Drake, and I can't wait for them to lose the first round.
I love that. I'm definitely rooting for Drake. Talking about the seeding too, I mean, like Arizona was a higher ranked two seed than them, which I think is an absolute abomination. Bad on you, the committee, but we'll move on to the last matchup here in the first round. Of course, the number one overall seed, the defending champs. Who's going to beat them? I don't know, but it's the Yukon Huskies. They are playing Stetson in this game, if that matters at all. I'd say take the spread in this game. What do you guys think?
Yeah. What is the spread? A
26
lot to a
and a half
little.
currently. Yeah, 26 and a half. I
Ooh.
might extend it. I'll say give him 30. I like my chances here. Yeah.
Okay.
Aiden, go for it. What's your thoughts on the Huskies?
Yeah, I got nothing on Stetson. UConn's gonna absolutely pummel Stetson. I don't know, man. I'm high on this Huskies team. It's so scary to bet or to take a team to win back to back, right? Like we haven't seen it since that Florida Joakim Noah team,
Corey Brewer, shut up.
Corey Brewer. I don't know. This UConn team is just filthy. Like they can win in so many different ways, which is like kind of like my favorite thing to look for with these like upper echelon teams that I want to pick to go far is like if teams want to muck it up and play slow and just grind it out a close game, like UConn can do that inside. If you want to run and you want to play in transition and push the pace and have get into these high scoring games, like who are you taking other than UConn? They're just I just don't see weaknesses, which I mean it's March Madness, so they're gonna lose to somebody because everyone's thinking this.
Hopefully.
But man, it is they are just filthy. Like that team is easily the best team in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even close to a hot take.
No, I think their starting five is undoubtedly the best. And we talked about it last week, but they dominated the transfer portal. Tristan Newton's my guy. Cam Spencer's got that dog in him. They got an elite freshman, Stephon Castle. And then they have the experience of a championship winning team with Caravan and Klingon, who we mentioned off the bat. But I really like that point too of they can play different styles. I think that Big East championship was a massive example of that, where Marquette, they really slowed it down and it was a really low scoring game. But they still came out on top. It didn't matter. And we know they can put up kind of 100 on a nightly basis. They're top five offensively and defensively, which I think is not really fair. And with a lot of experience, I like their odds in this tournament a lot. If we want here, we can jump into the onions section of the East and talk about a little bit farther down the bracket. Now, we mentioned already, and I'd love to start near the bottom with the two seed. I'll tell you what, boys, I think I'm differing a little bit. I do like the Iowa State Cyclones here a lot, and I'm going to take them over Drake. I think that'll be a very, very interesting game. Again, just the different play styles, but I think they're going to throw everything at Tucker DeVries that they can and just hope something sticks. That's another one of my highly anticipated matchups if it does happen. But as well, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. I mean, Illinois BYU, in theory, this is a good matchup for BYU because they love offense. Illinois loves offense as well, not strong defense. So I think that could be a low-key upset and a great draw for the Cougars. I guess you guys both have Drake moving on though, right? Aiden?
Yeah, I I like Drake to pull off the upset here. Something
Nice.
a little Iowa madness, trying to prove that they're the best team in the state. Um, I don't know. I'm not super high on this Iowa State team. If anything else, just because I think they're might have peaked at the right time or the wrong time. They didn't really play anyone out of conference like the whole first 3 months of the season. All we heard was Iowa State's gaming the net, Iowa State's gaming the net, which, there might be a little truth to that. I think they've definitely proven that they're not just gaming the net, they're a good team. I think that BYU Illinois game is going to be super interesting. And I know I'm not super high on BYU. Like there's a world where this bracket breaks and BYU's in the Elite Eight. If they
Yeah.
get Iowa State again, they already beat them once. And the second time they played them, they were up like 6 points with like 5 minutes to go. It's crazy to say because I'm not super high on this BYU team, but there's definitely a world where it breaks and they get hot against Illinois and they're playing UConn in the Elite Eight. I think I have to go for my Elite Eight. UConn, Illinois, though.
Yeah.
I will lean towards the Illini. That offense is just cooking right now. But like I said, I would not be surprised if BYU just finds their way. We wake up and, oh my God, BYU just won 4 games in the tournament.
I like that. Yeah, bet the over on that game, I would say. But Carter, what's your thoughts on the Elite Eight?
I am almost similar to Aiden in the fact that yes, I like Drake getting to the Sweet 16. And I do have Illinois there right now. So then I have Illinois Drake there playing for that spot in the Elite Eight, and I feel like this is where the magic will run out, and then this is where the magic of the Big Ten will maybe happen, that Illinois will make it to an Elite Eight. I'm riding with that. At the top, I like to be different. I've got Auburn beating UConn to get
Ooh.
into the Elite Eight there. I just want to see maybe Dan Hurley coach a close game in a tournament, which we haven't seen yet. I think last year they won all those games by like 10 points or more at least. Maybe it was like 10 or 12 points. So I want to see when the chips are down. I just want to see a coaching extravaganza here. Bruce Pearl versus Dan Hurley in a close game. Who will win out? So, and I'm just riding the Pearl wave, and I probably will, that'll probably bite me in the butt. But like Aiden said, I think they're underseeded. And I think that people aren't gonna maybe catch on to that. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people aren't picking Auburn, so that's why I'm picking Auburn. So
I like
Auburn, Illinois, in my Elite Eight.
I think it's a good pick. Honestly, you could probably name like 6 or 7 teams here, and I would not argue with you much.
Yeah,
I think
tough reaching.
UConn got a tough draw here. I mean, they're playing either FAU or Northwestern second round, which I feel like is a tough draw. And then after that, you have either Auburn, who's an offensive juggernaut, or San Diego State, who is my pick actually in that game, who's a defensive juggernaut. I'm riding with the Mountain West High, as you'll see as we go along here. But I do like UConn over San Diego State as well. Uh,
Natty rematch. Love it.
yeah, so and I think it'll go, pretty similar to last year. I don't know if offensively San Diego State can kind of keep up with them, unfortunately. But that Auburn San Diego State matchup, again, kind of just the different play styles clashing will be, I think, an all-time classic. And I guess we can reveal our final four picks off the bat here too. I'm gonna be boring. I do have Iowa State and UConn in the Elite Eight. I'm gonna take the Huskies. Their odds a lot in this tournament. I'd be shocked if they didn't make it out of this bracket, but I think it's about as bad of a draw as they could have gotten, regardless.
I got Auburn beating
Nice.
Illinois. So I'm still riding the wave. But yeah, if UConn's not in it, I feel the Auburn Illinois game will be electric. So I'll take Auburn.
Yeah. Whatever the Elite Eight matchup is, it's gonna be insane.
It's gonna be awesome. This region is sick. I
Yeah,
just don't want it to be like BYU and San Diego State.
yeah. I'm hype. Purdue didn't draw this honestly, but Aiden, who's your final four pick?
Yeah, I got UConn. I will say, especially if you're playing in bigger bracket pools, like Carter said, Auburn is my favorite under the radar pick out of here because I think they're probably the best team in this region to match up with UConn. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose to IUAB, but they lose at San Diego State in the second round. I would not be surprised at all. But I think out of all the teams here, I kind of like how they match up with UConn best. And so if you're assuming that UConn isn't going to win and you want to get a little bit of an edge in those bigger pools, I feel like Auburn is definitely the way to go. I like that pick a lot, Carter. But I will take UConn personally.
I
Respect.
appreciate the love. Yeah.
I love the boldness. You have to do it. Amazing boys. We're kind of just wrapping up this region. I mean, we were talking about sleepers already a little bit too, but I'll just throw out a couple that I love a lot. I guess San Diego State, not really a sleeper when you go to the national championship game the year before, right? And similar with FAU too. I think FAU could come out of this bracket, and not be shocked at all. Watch out for the Owls. And you guys kind of stole my big one. I mean, the Drake Bulldogs. I don't know if we need to delve into them anymore. Were there any other kind of low-key sleepers you guys want to mention?
I don't think not that we've already mentioned Drake was the biggie, and yeah, I don't really see any other lower seeds like make double digit seeds making it that
Go
far.
Bulldogs. Shut up, Boo Booey. We love you. So move on to the second here. A little betting advice. I guess we can go around and name a few, and I'll kick it off here too, because I do like a few of these lines. First round, I love Iowa State -17 against the Jackrabbits. I think this is going to be an absolute mauling. I might take the under here as well. I don't think South Dakota State is going to score too many points. And then I already mentioned UConn spread. That's free. Auburn -13, I think is free. And then I mentioned already too, but little same game parlay, little Drake money line and DeVries go like his alt points go like 25 plus. I think that could be pretty tasty as well. But I'll throw it over to the professional. Aiden, you like any of those?
I like the Tucker DeVries points. I don't know. There's so much like volatility in the tournament. I'm just so nervous to like actually pick specific games. I've
Mhm.
been leaning way more into the props, I think, this year. And the big one I am targeting right now is Boo Booey over 20 and a half against FAU.
Ooh, absolutely.
FAU's defense is it's solid, but they've kind of gotten lit up by some of the better guards that they've played. I had it written down somewhere here.
Their defense kind of sucks, if I'm being honest. It's not very good.
They're like 109th in adjusted defensive efficiency, which is just like very
Eh,
mid. They're not very good against isolation scorers. Boo Booey's averages the most isolation possessions per game out of tournament players. And the guards they played this year, they played Wade Taylor of Texas A&M, 35 points. Played Caleb Love, 28 points. Played Illinois, Terrence Shannon, 33 points. I just think if this is Boo Booey's last hurrah in Northwestern, if we do think FAU is going to pull this out, there's no way that guy's going out quiet. I think 21 and a half is a pretty nice number for him. I could see him even diving into those alt markets, getting into some of the 25, 30 points. I just think he's going to have a great game.
I like that a lot. I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. And yeah, Bowie has to show out for his last appearance, possibly. Carter, what do you like here?
I'll ride the coattails on Aiden there and just do a same game parlay just to take Northwestern to cover the spread then too. Because it's what FAU -2.5 right now. So I'd take Northwestern +2.5 if we think Boo Booey's gonna pop off and give him the dub. So that's what I'll ride with. I love that Boo Booey bet though. I'll be placing that.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Hoopy himself. I saw a statistic too with the 8-9 games. Typically, the team that isn't favored statistically actually does win, which is pretty interesting.
Hmm.
So maybe shout out Northwestern, but I'll still ride with the Owls. So we can keep moving on to the next region here. We can just kick it to the Midwest and talk a little bit about my Boilermakers, but of course too talk about some of the better matchups in the first round. And I don't know, this first 8-9 matchup, I don't think is the most exciting on paper. Of course, you have the Utah State Aggies, who are the Mountain West regular season champs, going up against the TCU Horned Frogs, which obviously the winner of this would in theory match up with Purdue. And I've seen a lot of people picking either the Horned Frogs or the Aggies, which would be interesting. But I feel like this is a bit of a 50-50 game. Just to go kind of crazy analytical for a second, Utah State top 50 offense and a top 100 defense. TCU top 70 offense and a top 40 defense. So I think they almost like cancel each other out, and TCU has a very good defense. Utah State has a very good offense, and then they're both just okay on the other side of the ball. So I don't really know what's going to go on here, if I'm being honest. I think I'm going to lean Utah State just because of some of their key players. But I'll throw it to you, Carter. I mean, this is a tough one to pick, I think.
Yeah, it was very much a 50-50. I just picked the Horned Frogs just based off of the conference that they played in. And I just like the Big 12 over the Mountain West here. So and I also like Jamie Dixon. I think that he's been there a few times, a little more seasoned than Utah State, I think. So I'll just take Horned Frogs with the slight edge over the Aggies.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jamie Dixon's an amazing coach. They also have Jameer Nelson Jr., who I absolutely love. So shout out to him. Aiden, what are your thoughts about this game, though?
To kind of add to what you said, Kody, these teams are so similar, especially on offense, where Neither team is like very good from three, but then they both love to pound the paint. But then on defense, neither team can really guard the paint and they just give a lot of interior looks. I think this might be the biggest coin flip in the first round. I want to take Utah State here. I think Gray Elsebar is one of my favorite mid-major players, Mountain West player of the year this year. Big man. I'm going to have to take the Aggies, but like you said, this is a coin flip.
I back completely. I think Ladie was probably robbed of Mountain West Player of the Year, but neither here nor there. I really like their like point guard. It's the bald guy. His name is Darius Brown, but really good distributor. He looks like he's about 40, but he's actually very good. So shout out to him. And I agree. I think this for me is the biggest coin flip. I think just due to the fact that the Mountain West kind of seeding was so disrespectful here, I'm going to take a slight edge to the Aggies. I mean, them being an 8 seed, I think is pretty tough after winning the regular season in the Mountain West, and then they lost to San Diego State in the tournament. I don't know. We'll get into more Mountain West seeding in a bit, but this should be a good one. I'm definitely excited for. But we can kick it to the 7-10 matchup, and of course that is prefaced by a play-in game here. And they actually play tonight, I believe, Colorado State and Virginia. We can just start off talking about that matchup. I'm going to start off and just say I'm a massive Virginia hater. Like I said off the top of the show, I don't really think they should have been in. And they, of course, are the classic. Oh, what's their coach's name? I don't even know.
Tony Bennett.
Yeah, the classic Bennett team of, slow you down. I think they legitimately are the slowest pace of play team in the country, but they also have a top 10 defense, which is of course classic Virginia. I just don't like them. I still have beef over the Diakite shot with Purdue. So I'm going Colorado State here. I think again, the Mountain West kind of disrespect is showing through here. Colorado State, I mean, in the non-conference was a ranked team. They were kind of taking teams down left and right, and they struggled a little bit in the Mountain West, which is fair. But I like their odds a lot. I think Isaiah Stevens is one of the best players in the country and one of the most clutch. So I'm riding high with the Colorado State squad tonight. I guess what's your thoughts on the playing game though, Carter?
Totally agree with you. I can't stand watching this Virginia team play. There are some Virginia teams I do like watching, but this season is not one of them. And like you said, Colorado State, and I gave Isaiah Stevens my hoopy. So for the Mountain West. So I am riding with Colorado State. I'm also taking them over the Longhorns.
Ooh.
I have a buddy who lives in Austin and watches a lot of Texas basketball, and he's like, no, Texas is going to lose. So I'm just fully riding on the locals here, giving me insight. So, and I'm ready for people to do the horn down chant and then for just everyone to lose their minds, for the coach to lose their mind. So can't wait for that.
Yeah, Ronnie Terry's a hater. Good to know you have insider information, though. I might have to switch my page here.
Yeah, you let me know.
Aiden, are you a Virginia defender here, or are you on the same page?
Definitely not a defender. I mean, they're disgusting. They've got to be the least enjoyable team to watch in the tournament.
Yeah.
I get that their resume was pretty decent in a down year for the ACC. I don't know. It's pretty hard to defend them making the tournament. I kind of like either of the teams. I think whoever wins this playing game, I do like them over Texas.
Wow.
Kind of been anti-Texas all year. I know Cody's a big Texas guy.
I am.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big Aiden's guy. Dylan Dessou is a dog, I will say. I don't really think that Hunter is consistent enough for me.
Yeah.
And so I think like when they're on, I think they could give Tennessee a pretty good game in the next round. But I don't know. There's something about I felt like I need to pick a play-in team to win. I'm not a big Boise State guy. So I'll take whoever wins that playing game to beat Texas. Hopefully Colorado State.
I agree. And again, statistically, again, throw this out the window if you want, but typically a play-in team, at least one, does move on to the second round. And I agree. I think the other play-in matchup is a lot weaker than this one. So I don't hate it. I am going to ride with Texas here just to be their defender. Max Abmas is a dog. I don't know what you're talking about, Aiden. Dessou as well got Carter's hoopy, so shout out to him. But I do agree. I think Tyrese Hunter almost is like their kryptonite in a sense. Just when he doesn't play well, they don't win at all. So he's going to be a massive factor. I think an underrated guy here as well, Kendall Weaver. He's kind of like Tabo Cephalosha, but a lot better kind of offensive.
Aiden is disgusted by that
He's
comparison.
a lockdown defender, and I like him matching up with Stevens directly. And in their next game, I like him matching up with Dalton Connect a lot as well. I may have the Longhorns making a little bit of a run here. But I think this will be a great game regardless, and I'm excited to see Colorado State and Texas matchup. I'm already counting them in. But we can keep going along here as well to the 6-11 game, which I actually like a lot as well. I think it's a pretty good matchup. We got the 6 seed South Carolina Gamecocks, who I'm a big fan of, and then another bid stealer here slotting in that 11 spot, the Oregon Ducks, who of course won the Pac-12 tournament. I'll throw it back over to you, Aiden. What do you think about this game?
I feel like this is going to be that classic game where people are going to see Oregon as the 11. They just won the Pac-12, kind of like red hot. I don't know. Oregon kind of has like a brand almost, like people know Oregon. Maybe not Oregon basketball, but they've had some good teams. They made some decent runs when they had Pritchard. I don't know. Like, I just don't see it. I think South Carolina got a little underseeded. I feel like they've had a pretty good argument to be a 5. Obviously, their story is awesome. I know, Kody, you've been a big fan of South Carolina this year. I mean, getting picked to finish last in the SEC, and now you're a 6 seed in the tournament. I think it's just so cool. I love Michi Johnson. He's a little streaky. He's a little up and down. He
Oh yeah.
had some rough games, especially towards the end of the year. But man, when he's cooking, him and BJ Mack are just dogs. Like I really do like the South Carolina team, and I think they should have no problems with Oregon. Dante is an animal, I will say, but South Carolina's defense, I think, is good enough to slow him down. And this ain't Pac-12 basketball anymore. This is the SEC, man.
Yeah, Oregon is hot. I mean, obviously the bid steal got them into the tournament. Dante is just crazy efficient. Like that guy just doesn't miss jumpers, or dunks, which he does a lot more. But also the last time they did a bid steal with Pritchard in the Pac-12 tournament, they won a couple games in the tournament. So I think they could be dangerous. But I'll throw it over to you, Carter, before giving my thoughts.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Aiden that people are going to see, and this goes totally against my theory of a hot teams coming out of championships. But I mean, I've been not been impressed with these Ducks all season, and I like Dana Altman a lot. He would be the only reason that I would kind of sway over South Carolina. But uh, but no, I'm going to ride with the Gamecocks. I've just such a cool success story, and I at least see them seeing they can win at least one game in this tourney. So I think I'm going to ride with them.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously agree. I love the Gamecocks. Another weird stat, every time Dana Altman's been in the tournament, he's pretty much made it to the Sweet 16. So a bit scary here. I think Oregon definitely has a great shot. Like I said, I love the Gamecocks. I love their style of play. They really slow it down. They kind of just have a mid offense and a mid defense, but they dominated the transfer portal. And I like their odds a lot here. So I'm going to rock with the Gamecocks, and hopefully they can win a game. Be a pretty cool story. Perfect, boys. We can go on to upset alert here. And honestly, this 12-5 matchup might be my favorite of the bunch. It is the 5 seed Gonzaga Bulldogs versus the McNeese State Cowboys, who, I mean, record-wise, these are two of kind of the top-rated teams on that side of things in the first round matchup, which I think is cool. Um, I don't know. This is going to be, I think, a really good one. We'll kick it over to you, Carter. What do you think, man?
Gonzaga makes Sweet 16s. It's all they do. And I think that Mark Few is going to benefit from people like maybe not having the target on his back, just like to win it all this year. And because of that, I think he's gonna pick up a couple games. So I think this is gonna be a really fun matchup, and this is obviously an easy 12-5 upset to make. But I'm just going contrarian on that completely, and I'm gonna go with Gonzaga here.
I love that. I mean, I feel like it's about 50-50 with the 5-12s, and I think they're all going to be close games. It's hard to choose who's going to win, but Aiden, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, like Carter said, when is the last time Gonzaga entered the tournament with like no expectations? Like if they were to lose to McNeese, would anyone say this was like a bad season by Gonzaga? Like they had that huge turnaround halfway through the year. I don't know. I think there is something to be said about not having that pressure. I also just want to say McNeese has 30 wins. Let me read you a few of the teams that they've played this year. On November 10th, they beat Biblical Studies by 40 points.
It's a good team.
3 days later, they beat Champion Christian by 60 points. The day after, they beat Le Torno by 40. And later on, this is my favorite one. They beat Mississippi University for Women 92-23. What are we doing here?
Did they play women?
Was it a women's team?
I would certainly.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
I don't
How
believe
that
so.
university, yeah, have a men's basketball team. That's funny.
Like they beat Michigan and VCU, which like I guess
And
VCU
UAB.
is
They beat
okay.
UAB.
They did beat UAB, and I was hyping up UAB. I don't know, man. I do think Will Wade is a good coach. I just don't think they've played anyone in Gonzaga's stratosphere. I'm gonna take the dogs here. I have to
Wow.
say, I like how they've been playing the last month.
If I can add to that, like Will Wade feels like he's got a foot out the door already. Like he's ready to take
100%.
another job. So I feel like that always hurts teams when they go into the big dance. So I feel like that'll also work against them. So
Yeah. I think that's fair. I'm gonna go contrarian here. I'm absolutely taking McNeese.
love
Um,
it.
I'm not really sure how Gonzaga got a 5 seed, if I'm being completely honest. I think they didn't know what to do with them in St. Mary's, and they were just like, screw it, throw them both in the 5 slot. Um, versus they should have just done that with some Mountain West teams, I think. But obviously, both very good offenses here. I think Gonzaga, statistically, even the deeper statistics, may have a slight edge. But I don't know. McNeese, I think they'll make a run. Like I said, Will Wade, he definitely has a foot out the door. I don't really like him as a person either, so it's hard to root for him. But I think he's going to have his guys revved up and ready to go. I think this team has been waiting kind of for this game for a long time. And I think maybe if Gonzaga had kept Hunter Salas in the portal, then I'd be saying a lot of different things. But their guard play doesn't scare me. I think Nemhard is awesome, but it's the big question mark of how much can he score? Because they run a lot through Graham Ike, but I think McNeese will have the size or at least kind of the strategy to, make somebody else beat them other than Ike. So it'll be interesting, but again, I mean, I feel like this is a bit of a toss-up, so it could go either way. We can move on to another one of my favorite matchups here: the 4-seeded Kansas Jayhawks versus the 13-seeded Samford. I believe they're the Bulldogs. They're some sort of dog. I didn't look up the mascot, but I'll tell you what. I think Samford. I'll kick us off here. I think Samford maybe is a little bit underseeded. I personally would have liked to see them as a 12 over UAB. They have a top 25 offense. I think that's going to be the massive thing here is Kansas's defense against Samford's offense. Another fun note too, the first game of the season, Samford actually played Purdue and they lost by 50. So that's not a great indicator. But every game after that, like their offense has been pretty good. I think they only scored like 48 points or something in that game. I mean, the big question mark here too is Kansas's health. I think if they are healthy, I'm probably going to lead the Jayhawks way, but I'm rooting very, very hard for Samford here, of course. But Aiden, I'll throw it to you, man. Do you think upsets brewing or you like the Hawks?
I know McCullough, I think, is for sure playing. I think they haven't really said anything about Dickinson quite yet.
Hmm.
I don't know. I would assume Dickinson plays. If McCullough is playing, I don't know. I just trust Bill Self a little too much. I think Kansas is kind of scary as a 4 seed, especially for a team like Purdue, just based on how they started, how Kansas looked at the beginning of the season. And I know it hasn't gelled completely, but their big thing all year was like they had their 4 guys, and then once who's the freshman,
Burfy?
the white kid, yeah, once he started playing more and playing better, I feel like that 5-man lineup is just like they can play with anyone in the country when they're playing well. I think defense is definitely a concern. I don't know. Sanford, weren't they the team that trotted out that like really small dude to do the tip against Edie? Was
Yeah,
that team? Yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
Get out of here with that. I'll take
Yeah, I'm back with that. Like I said, I think Kansas' starting five is pretty elite. KJ Adams has been one of the most underrated players for the past couple years, I think, in the country. And DeJuan Harris, kind of his defensive metrics are off the chart too. But what do you think here, Carter? Any upsets on your watch here?
No, not here. Again, it totally reliant on their health. And again, McCullers had a lot of rest, so I think he's playing. And the Dickinson will be. I feel like they'll use him sparingly, and I feel like they'll be able to use him sparingly in this game. So, yeah, I'm gonna ride with the Hawks as well. So I'm gonna have the Bulldogs and the Hawks meeting in an awesome round of 32 game. So
Love it. We can jump through these last three ones pretty quickly. The 14-3 matchup is going to be the Creighton Blue Jays against the Akron Zips. Personally, I'm pretty high on the Blue Jays. I was last year, and obviously they brought back the majority of their team. Akron, they've kind of been in the tournament a few times and haven't done too much. But I'll throw it back over to you, Carter. Any expectations for the Zips this game?
was Akron the championship game where the guy fouled him and oh yeah. So
Brutal.
Akron doesn't even deserve to be here. So no, that game was insane. And shout out to that guy who fouled him. I hope he's doing okay, his mental health wise. But Kody, you and I always kind of lean the same on Creighton. So I'm high on Creighton as well. So yeah, I have them getting past the Zips here pretty easily also.
Yeah, I was kind of a Creighton hater last year. They have really won me over this year. I'm very high on them. I don't think they'll have any problem with Akron.
Love that. Yeah, that three-man trio of Trey Alexander, Shireman, and Colk Brenner, I think is just they can beat you in any aspect of the game. I think it's a tough matchup for any team. Akron does have a top 50 defense. So if they can kind of, contain them a little bit, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but maybe look at their cover a little bit. Sweet. The 215 matchup here, a really fun one. St. Peter's, man, they are back in the tournament, and they're back as a 15 seed, playing an SEC favorite in the first round. Of course, the Tennessee Volunteers, who are obviously led by my favorite player in the country, Don't Connect, who did kind of not do great in the SEC tournament. They got bounced very early, actually in the first round, which another overplayed statistic. If you lose in the first round of your conference tournament, you're not going to be the national championship. Basically, it's never happened. So definitely, I think a bit worrisome there for Tennessee. But you like the Peacocks here, Hayden? What can they do it again? I don't know. It's tough.
I think my biggest complaint with the committee this year was not giving Purdue St. Peter's as the 16
Ah,
seed.
nah.
Like, what are we
Cowards.
doing? What a missed opportunity. No, I don't think the magic is there. It is Rick Barnes in March, which makes me a little nervous, but like I said, I just can't get myself to take these 15 seeds.
Yeah. No Doug Edert. I think it's gonna be tough. I disagree. I'm very happy that they did not give Purdue St. Peter's. They I don't know. I feel like they would have lost somehow. But you feel any difference here, Carter? You like the Peacocks?
I do like the Peacocks, but Tennessee will win. So I like the Vols, and I'm looking for Rick Barnes to kind of to break that mold. I'm ready for him to break through in March. So, which will foreshadow. I'll show you in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, this is his chance. This is the best Tennessee team I think he's had in a very long time.
Gotta be.
Personally, I hope St. Peter's gets absolutely slaughtered here. So activate a Connect 30-point bomb here, and I'm on board with that. But of course, the aforementioned one seed in this bracket is the Purdue Boilermakers. Wah, wah, wah. They do play a play-in game again, which has me very, very scared. I think it's Grambling State and Montana State. I assume maybe Grambling will win. Who even cares, if I'm being honest? But I think I'm just gonna throw $5 on the 16 seed money line. What do you guys think?
What's the money line? I mean,
I
might
mean, it's
just
gotta be like plus 1,000 or something. Um, yeah, I'm nervous, boys. I don't even want to talk about this too much, but I don't know. Do you think it's possible to happen again?
I don't think so personally. I don't know. I've been this whole year, I feel like I've been not even trying to be a Purdue defender, and now I've like turned myself into a Purdue defender. I
Hell
just
yeah.
think this team is so much different than last year.
Yeah.
Like the guard play is just night and day. Like I was going through and I kind of watched one of those like highlight cut ups of the Purdue FDU game last year, and like you don't even recognize Braden Smith. Like that is not the same player at
yeah.
all. And then we've talked about this all year, Kody. Lance is just such a difference maker. Like he just gives you guys such an element that you haven't really had. Just being able to create off the dribble and like get his own shot, I think was like the biggest thing you guys were lacking. Just like relying a little too much on Edie. I don't know. I still think Fletcher is a little hit or miss for me, but like if he gets hot, I don't know, man. I still think Purdue is one of the best teams in the country. I think they're gonna absolutely pound whoever the 16 seed is. Grambling.
Shut up, Grambling. I agree, and we've talked about this on the pod before too, but definitely a different team. I mean, Lance has his jumper has not been as good as it was at the beginning of the year, which worries me. And then just the health of Braden Smith is definitely the X factor. Didn't really look like himself against Wisconsin. I don't think he was healthy at all. And then, like you said, lawyers, super streaky. Mason Gillis, I think, is a great glue guy. Same with TKR, Trey Kaufman-Renn. Yeah, do you like Grambling anymore here, or do you think they're gonna get slaughtered?
I like Montana State.
Yes.
No, but no, I think Purdue is going to exercise that demon, and they're gonna get that out of the way. I like also that they're playing on Friday this year. So like I always think like you play the second day, you get to see some upsets happen and you're kind of off the hot seat a little bit and you think, well, it's already been done, so we're okay if it happens to us. People won't remember whatever, blah, blah, blah. So no, I don't think it can happen again this year. I think Purdue will do it pretty handily unless Ted Valentine's ref in the game. We'll see. I don't know. Uh
Fingers crossed.
but yeah, I got the Boilers getting out of the round of 64.
Well, I appreciate the nice words, boys. I'm sure it will end pretty quickly here, but should be a fun game regardless. A good note there too, and that can kind of jump into the next rounds here. But Purdue's first two games would be in Indianapolis, which
Bro.
I don't think is really fair for one thing, but I think it will help out a lot. And I definitely want to talk about the 8-9 matchup. Obviously, we kind of went differing ways here. I'm guessing, Carter, that you have the Horned Frogs taking down the Boilers, no?
I don't actually.
Love that.
I have a little more faith in the Boilers this year, as Aiden kind of alluded to. Completely different team. It really just depends on. I think it really just comes down to the officiating crew. I think if you're going to get to the line or you're not going to get to the line. We're just going to see. But yeah, I have TCU here, but I have Purdue getting past them. So you're
Respect.
welcome.
I appreciate that again. One tiny tangent with the officiating too. I feel like on Twitter there was a massive just like craziness that I saw after the Wisconsin game
Oh
about how
yeah.
Edie gets every single call, like, oh, so fraudulent. I get it. Like Purdue's an easily hateable team, but give us a break, man. Like we lost to a 16 seed, we lost to a 15 seed, we lost to a 14 seed. We hate ourselves enough. We don't need Twitter coming at us as well. But there's
Always
nothing we
happen.
can do about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so don't love the hate, but we can I mean, we can go to the Sweet 16 matchup too. I guess Aiden, do you think Purdue will beat Utah State? And then do you like Gonzaga or Kansas a little bit more?
I think Purdue makes it out. I will say if TCU pulls out against Utah State, I think they have a better chance against Purdue. But I kind of think the Boilers pull that out regardless. Like Carter said, kind of exercise those demons. This Gonzaga Kansas game, potential Gonzaga Kansas game is just super interesting to me. Like I said, I think if Kansas is healthy, I think they can play with anyone in the country. It's just so hard to pick them not knowing Dickinson's status. He dislocated his shoulder. Can you just pop that back in? I say from my seat as I haven't left the house today. I think I keep going back and forth between the Zags and Kansas right there. But I do think Purdue will end up playing Kansas in the Sweet 16. And that is going to be a heck of a game. Very excited for either of those results.
I agree. I do have Kansas beating McNeese in my bracket. And I think it's just destiny that Dickinson and Edie have one last kind of, matchup to decide it all. I'll say spoiler alert too, but I do like Purdue in that matchup. I think this is about as good of a draw as they could have gotten. Um, which again, they get a good draw every year and somehow royally mess it up. But Carter, I want to hear your thoughts. I believe you're rolling with the Zags here, correct?
I am going with the Zags here, just off that Sweet 16 stat that they just always love making Sweet 16s. And but again, totally dependent on the health of Dickinson, whether he if he plays and whether he's even at 100%. And then I'm just gonna love the Andrew Nemhard and Braden Smith matchup at Purdue. I think that's gonna be electric. So yeah, I've got the Zags and Purdue matching up. And then here is where I have the Boilers run ending. I have the Zags just like kind of defying the odds, flying under the radar, kind of similar to maybe Auburn up at the top. I'm just picking teams that can maybe fly under the radar and make it. So I've got at the top, I've got Gonzaga in my Elite Eight.
I love that. I think Gonzaga actually is a pretty good matchup for them against Purdue. They did meet up earlier in the year, I believe. So they kind of,
Revenge game.
yeah, they know how to play them as well, which could be
Yeah.
interesting. But we can go down to the bottom side of the bracket. I do have a little bit of mayhem happening here, and I'll just kick it off. Well, you guys both picked against Texas, but I do like them taking down the Tennessee Volunteers here as well.
Ooh.
It's tough because I don't know, Tennessee in the SEC tournament just really scared me a little bit with that
Hmm.
early loss. And I think if they get challenged and again they get a team who can kind of shoot threes the way Texas can, again, I think Tyrese Hunter is going to be a massive X factor here. So I'm kind of counting on him to play well. But it's a tough road. Obviously, Creighton and South Carolina would be the other matchup. And I'm definitely leaning the Blue Jays way on that side of things. But kick it back over to you, Carter. Who do you like here in the bottom side?
So I got the Vols getting past either Virginia or Colorado State. And then I have the Jays getting out against South Carolina. And then here I have in theory, this is where the Naismith Player of the Year and the and the runner-up Naismith Player of the Year kind of duke it out. And I think Tennessee gets it done, and then Purdue doesn't, and they're like, "Well, what the hell? We wanted to kind of prove myself." So I think Tennessee gets there, and so I have Tennessee Gonzaga in my Elite Eight in this bracket.
I love that. I think both those offenses could easily catch fire. One other thing about Texas too in that Tennessee matchup, I think the big man matchup will be massive. We
Oh
mentioned
yeah.
Dessou. I think he can kind of bring out Jonas Adu as Tennessee center. I think maybe he can bring him out on the perimeter a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but again, Adu could probably back him down pretty much every time. I think the winner of that battle may kind of be the key factor in that game. I am also rolling heavily with Creighton all the way to the Elite Eight.
Got
How
to.
far do you like them going here, Aiden?
Yeah, I think I don't know. Tennessee slot against either Colorado State or Virginia. Tennessee probably ends up pulling it out. It's so hard for me to trust Rick Barnes, and especially like you said, how they close out the season. That is a pretty wild stat about national champion never losing like their first game in their conference tournament. I definitely don't think Tennessee will make it that far. I like Creighton against South Carolina, and then I like Creighton against Tennessee as well. So I will have Creighton in my Elite Eight playing against Purdue.
That is exactly what I have. I'll just kick us off because obviously being the Purdue fan here, I think this is an amazing matchup for the Blue Jays. We finally found somebody as tall as Zach Edey, guys. It took a very, very long time, but we did find it here. I don't know how they're going to contain Shireman or Trey Alexander. I guess you got to put I don't even know. You got to put Braden Smith on their point guard, and then you got to put Lawyer on either one of those guys, and he can't guard either of them. So that's dangerous. I like the Blue Jays rolling all the way to the Final Four here. I think this is a tough bracket, but I think a one where they do have good matchups with the 1 and 2 seed. Carter, do you have them stopping the Elite Eight? You like the Zags? Who do you like here?
I've got Tennessee rolling. I'm just totally going against all narratives. I'm
Love
getting
that.
rid of the Rick Barnes narrative. I'm getting rid of how they ended the season narrative. I'm just cold ass white boy. I'm rolling with him this year. So I'm gonna go. I'm going Tennessee to the Final Four in this one.
I love it. I mean, I'm a Dalton Connect stand, so I'll be rooting for him along the way. But did you say your Final Four? I can't remember.
I think I'm leaning the same way as you, Kody.
Really?
I have Creighton and Purdue playing. I don't know. That'll be a great game, but I do agree. I just don't know if Purdue has the perimeter defenders to deal with Shireman and Alexander. I mean, Shireman is just absolute animal. Like that guy is just made for March. I'm just picturing him on One Shining Moment, beating Purdue, going to the Final Four. I do have to take Creighton here to make my Final Four. So I got UConn and Creighton so far.
Yeah. I respect it. I also have the same, Aiden. So we're matching there. Kind of closing thoughts on this bracket altogether, but I will be shocked if Purdue makes the Elite Eight. So shout out to them if they do. But again, kind of sleeper wise, I feel like we covered everything there. So we can just keep rolling on to some of the bets that we like. First round for me, it's got to be McNeese plus 6.5. I think even if they do end up losing this game, it should be fairly close. So I like that line a lot. And then I also said whoever Purdue plays first round, I like their cover. Currently Grambling's at 24.5 and Montana State is at 22.5. So I guess Montana State in theory would be the better team. But I don't think we'll win by more than like 15. So I would pound that as well. Aiden, what are you thinking, man?
Um, Same thing. I don't know. I don't really love any of the lines in the first round. I guess I'd want to see what that Texas and depending on who wins that UVA Colorado State game. Back to the player props, man. Great Elsabar first round. His points were like 16 and a half. Absolutely love that.
Yep.
TCU can't really defend underneath. And he won Mountain West Player of the Year over Jaden Liddy for a reason. Like, even if Liddy probably should have won it, like he was an absolute animal. He's a dog. He's a low down low. I think he's gonna feast against them. That's definitely my favorite play from the Midwest.
I love that. Carter?
I think if you want to bet on a money line and you want to bet on Kansas, I would do it now before we have any news of Dickinson or confirmed McCullough stuff. It's 7.5 right now. I imagine that'll jump up quite a few if that's confirmed that they're both playing and starting. So I'd hop on that.
I love that. High value bet right now, baby. That will wrap up the Midwest.
Thanks for listening to the episode. You can follow the rest of our happenings over here at Kody and Corbin Have a Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at KHAP Podcasts, KHAPODCAST. Please follow us on Spotify, give us a rating, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow along for more.
2 down, 2 to go here. We can jump down to the South region, which I think It's another tough one. I don't think it's the most wide open, but I think a lot of different things could happen here. And again, obviously, we will start off with the 8-9 matchup. One of my favorite teams to watch and talk about. It's got to be the 8 seed Nebraska Cornhuskers, and they are taking on almost a surprise bubble team, the Texas A&M Aggies, who obviously made a massive run in the SEC tournament to boost them up to this point. I mean, in theory, this should be an offensive showcase. Texas A&M, they've had a weird season where they are ranked in the preseason very high. They kind of stumbled a little bit in the non-conference, and then once they got to SEC play, their shooting went terribly down. I believe it was somewhere around like 20 to 25% they were shooting from three. And with Wade Taylor on the team, I feel like that is pretty surprising. In the SEC tournament, they really turned it up, and Wade Taylor kind of flipped a switch, I guess, and it kind of went absolutely crazy. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what team shows up with them. But again, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, I mean, they have the most electric player in the country, Keisei Tominaga. The guy just doesn't miss. And they kind of have a lot of like sort of scrappy, good players around him who aren't the most talented. They are definitely not the most talented, but I think team-wise, they get underrated and kind of underestimated. Um, I like Nebraska a lot here. I think this would be a great over pick, but if Tominaga gets hot, I think he's going to make it his name in March here. But Aiden, I'll throw it to you. I know we talk about Tominaga a lot, but it's a tough matchup first round. Obviously, 8-9.
Yeah, A&M is one of those teams. They just like their range of outcomes for me is just so large. I mean, they beat Iowa State in non-conference, lost to Houston by 4, but then, like you said, they just had that stretch in the ACC where they lost to Vanderbilt, lost to Arkansas at home. You you just don't know what you're going to get game by game, and they are 353rd in 3-point shooting out of 362 teams. Like
Bad, bad,
that
bad.
is bad, and that is just a team where like if I take Texas A&M and they show up against Nebraska and they are 2 of 18 from three, like obviously that's what was going to happen. Got to back Tominaga. I actually think Nebraska's never won an NCAA tournament game, have they?
Really?
No, they're the only Power Five school that hasn't.
Wow.
Even more reason for me to back the Cornhuskers. I like Nebraska. I'm realizing I'm picking a lot of Big Ten teams in the first round, which I don't know how I feel about that, but I do. I like this matchup for Nebraska.
Yeah, statistically, I think the Big Ten, or at least past like 10, 20 years, they do pretty well in the first round. Once they get to the second round, that's where a lot of the issues come in. And another big thing too, which you mentioned, but I think the driving ability of Texas A&M will be a factor. Obviously, Wade Taylor and Radford are two like big, strong guards, and Nebraska has like Sam Hoiberg and Tominaga playing defense. So if they take these boys to the hole, I think it could be close. But I mean, they just love chucking the three ball, even though they miss pretty much like every other shot. But are you riding with the Big Ten here, Carter? What are your thoughts, man?
Have to, just for Tominaga. Obviously, the most fun Big Ten team to watch this year, in my opinion. Yeah, it's going to be a shootout, and I don't have a lot of faith in A&M being able to answer the call when Nebraska is raining buckets. Like their 3-point percentage is worse than Indiana's, so I think that Nebraska will easily get by them, and then they'll have a hell of a battle between the Longwood Lancers, of course, in the next round.
Love that. Yeah, if you're as bad as IU, that's when you know you're bad. But no, I'm just joking.
No, yeah, this
um,
year you're right.
shout out Anthony Leal. But moving on to our next matchup here, the 7-10, which is another playing game, which of course is the Boise State Broncos, which we mentioned, repping the Mountain West, going up against the Colorado Buffaloes, who did pretty well in the SEC tournament. I mean, they made it to the final, did end up losing to Oregon, but just enough to get in. And then Boise State, I don't know. I think out of the Mountain West teams, this is the one that I like the least. I would probably lean Colorado here. Carter, what's your thoughts on the plan?
Yeah, I'm also leaning Colorado. We weren't very high on Boise State in our last pod talking about them, but yeah, I would lead Colorado here. And then when you get to that 7-10 matchup, it just decides which narrative do you want to pick. Do you want to pick that Florida is down one of their star players, so they're going to lack the talent, or they're down one of their players and they're going to rally around him?
Yeah.
I'm still very 50-50 on that, and I'm picking the former. I think they need him to get past the Buffalo. And I hate doing that, but that's what I'm going with right now. So that's where I'm standing.
I respect it. Yeah, that was a just a gruesome injury in the SEC tournament as well.
Yeah.
So shout out, hopefully a quick recovery. But I agree too. I think it could work both ways. It could hurt them because they obviously lose depth with big guys, and Colorado specifically has a couple very good big guys, or it could kind of, inspire them and they can make a run, which I wouldn't be surprised either. But Aiden, we can kick it to you. Do you have any faith in Boise State, I guess, off the bat?
No, and it's not so much not faith in Boise State. It's just I kind of like this Colorado team. They just got some dudes. Like they're bringing Kody Williams off the bench now. Like he got hurt in February, and then they just winning games, and now they're just bringing NBA lottery pick off the bench. Like I don't know. They just got some guys like Tristan De La Silva. I feel like has been there for 20 years. Like he has to be a senior at this point. I think they're gonna handle Boise State, and then Florida can kind of go either way. Like Carter was saying, like, are we gonna rally around this traumatic injury? I do think it's pretty funny. Like, obviously, it's not funny that he got hurt, but as soon as the first possession after he got hurt, Bruce Pearl just put on the full court press.
See, he's
Dude,
ruthless in March, baby.
He's
brutal.
crazy, man. He's crazy. I don't know. Florida's guards are so good. I want to see what their defense looks like without whatever. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's last name.
We
But
won't disrespect him by trying, but
no, we won't.
he'll
I think I'll take the Buffalo here to advance past Florida. Like I said, they just got some guys.
yeah. Cody Simpson, I think, is a very underrated player as well for them. His points and assists against Boise State will be absolutely free. But the matchup with Florida, I think, is tough because, like you said, I mean, big man depth for Colorado. They even have Eddie Lampkin, who's just an absolute unit. He's kind of like a DJ Burns Jr. in a sense. And Tristan Da Silva, he's got that Perry Ellis effect where he just never leaves. But I don't know. I still lean Florida a little bit. I think just their 3-point shooting from obviously Mark Clayton and Zion Poland will just be tough to guard. And they did make a decent little run in the SEC tournament. Again, lost to Auburn, which I was a little bit emotional. And yeah, Bruce Pearl does not hold back. But I like Florida. I feel bad for the play-in teams this year because I think those 2 7 seeds of Texas and Florida are two very good teams. Like it's going to be tough to beat either one of those. And I think I will lean the Gators here overall, but should be a good game.
We didn't even mention it, and we didn't mention before, but like this play-in game is not usually a 10 seed play-in game. So
Yeah.
because of all the bid steals, it's just, has moved up a seed line. So it's definitely very interesting to see how that kind of differs with even the other 11 seeds, which we'll talk about another one in a minute. But
Yeah.
yeah, something to note.
That's a great point. I think just the 7 seeds are probably a little bit mad that they have to allow a team who's already won a game to kind of come in and play against them, which just isn't the norm. So definitely a great point. The last pretty decent matchup here is another one of my favorites. Of course, that 11 seed NC State Wolfpack, the ACC tournament champs, going up against a good Big 12 team, Texas Tech Red Raiders, who I feel like in the Big 12 tournament too, when they played BYU, I'm pretty sure, did Texas Tech beat them? I can't even remember actually. But I was surprised to see them at a 6. I thought they could have been ranked a little bit higher. Um, Obviously their backcourt of Pop Isaacs and Joe Toussaint is super experienced, but I think DJ Burns is the tough matchup for anybody here. I'll throw it to you, Carter. Do you have trust in your Hoopie Award winner?
Yeah, I'm rolling one more game with my Wolfpack. I'm hoping that they just weren't hot for that week and continue to just be hot for just one more game, because then I think they run into a warhammer, so to speak. So I like them getting past the Raiders. I think it's going to be a really close game though. So, but I'm going to take the Wolfpack.
I do agree here. I think Cinderella wise, how can you hate against this Wolfpack team? You got the 2 DJs, you got Burns, just the big boy in the middle, feed him. And you got DJ Horn, who I think is extremely underrated. He's finally healthy and playing well this season. Transfer from Arizona State last year, who was also in the playing games. So he's got that Dayton experience, which is nice. I don't know. I think this could go either way. Aiden, do you like the Raiders here, or what are you thinking?
I don't know. I mean, I loved that NC State run. This NC State team is so much fun, and
Yeah.
I think it's really going to be easy for me to get behind them as a little bit of a Cinderella candidate. Texas Tech has like 2 kind of big injuries, like Warren Washington, who's their big man.
Yeah.
He's been out for, I don't know, a couple weeks now. No idea if he's going to play. Actually, I was reading this today. I didn't even realize he was on Arizona State with DJ Horn last year.
Oh, really?
Had no idea. Yeah, who knew? Little homecoming for the boys, for the Sun Devils. But the big one I think is Darian Williams. He got hurt against BYU, and I don't think he finished the game. They were already up. They won by like 15. but
Yeah.
then didn't play the next game. I feel like he is definitely the key to this game with Burns. Like they're not going to have Washington and Darian Williams. I don't know, man. It's going to be really hard to contain this Wolfpack team, just given how hot they were in the ACC tournament. Like those guards and with an absolute bucket in DJ Burns. I don't know. It's going to be hard. I think I like the Wolfpack here.
I do agree with both of you guys. I think it is tough because in the past too, I think typically a bid stealer does at least win a couple games. Oregon State, COVID year, obviously made it to the Elite Eight. VTech was a bid stealer, I believe, last year and won a game. So it's difficult to predict, but I agree. I think the big man depth of Texas Tech will come into play. I would assume they're going to try and throw like crazy double teams at DJ Burns, but he actually likes that. He was giving interviews during the tournament where he prefers when you come in double team because he's kind of an elite passer. So I think they might try that, but I don't think it's going to work very well.
Cody, you just hinted at one of my favorite bets that we'll get to in a little bit. A little DJ Burns assist.
Ooh, I like that. What's the line? Spoil it now.
I believe it was 2.5 when I
Oh
opened.
yeah,
That's free.
hammer that.
It's been hovering around that 2.5, 3.5, but his assists or like points and assists, I think are both going to be interesting.
Yeah, I love that. Well, amazing. We can keep moving along here to the upset side of this bracket. And again, I feel like I said this before, but this 12-5 matchup is absolutely awesome. We have the 5-seeded Wisconsin Badgers, who made a pretty good run in the Big Ten tournament, but I think they got a tough draw in James Madison. Again, one of the highest winning teams. I believe they only have 3 losses on the year. I'll kick us off here. In my eyes, this is a no-brainer. Uh, I mean, I am a bit of a Wisconsin hater, I guess. AJ Storr has been absolutely balling out, so watch out for him. But everybody else on their team is just so mid. I can't stand Tyler Wall. Chucky Hepburn only plays well against Purdue, and they didn't draw them, so he's going to be terrible. Klesmit, he can kind of shoot it, but he's only going to score like 10 points a game. They're younger guys like McGee and Blackwell, I do like a lot, but they need another year or two to kind of figure it out. And James Madison, the deeper statistics here, I absolutely love. They're top 20 in offense and defense efficiency. They come at you both ways. They have great players too. Terrence Edwards was obviously the player of the year in the conference. TJ Bickerstaff has one of the best names in the country and also super underrated. So I like James Madison a lot in this matchup. But I'll throw it to you, Carter. Obviously, the Big Ten bias. What do you think about this game?
Like if this were the Wolfpack here, 100% would take the Wolfpack. But the wins alone don't help me with the James Madison. Yes, they beat Michigan State early in the year when they were a top 4 team. We've seen what Michigan State kind of was and is, and I think they're also a little higher seeded than maybe they should be. But I don't know. That's what's that to say. But I am gonna, as much as I hate to do it, I'm gonna roll with the Badgers. Just one game here, I think. But yeah, I just am relying on the AJ Storr. Tyler Wall will probably foul out like he always does, and then I don't know, maybe Steven Crowell will carry him there. But yeah, I think I'm gonna trust Greg Gard here. But happy to see the Dukes back in the dance.
Respect. Yeah, AJ Storr's a baller, and I did forget about the big guy. He could be a matchup problem. Corral, if he starts chucking threes, that could be interesting. But Aiden, what do you think about this 12-5?
Yeah, I don't know. James Madison is not my favorite 12 seed. I don't love Wisconsin. I mean, obviously the way they ended the season, they started what 16-4, and then just like they were like 7th in the country. Like wasn't that? I think when they played Purdue,
Yep.
was that
They were
still a top 10
6, I think.
matchup?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think they were 6.
And then they lost to Michigan, Rutgers,
Rutgers.
maybe. Yeah.
Indiana.
True. How can we forget that? Yeah.
I think the way they played in the Big Ten tournament, and I don't want to take too much away from just those couple days in Minneapolis, but dude, Storr is balling right now. Like he looked so good. I guess like I never really watched him a whole lot before the Big Ten tournament this year. I was very impressed with him. Like you said, I don't love their big guys, but I do think they have like a good amount of depth down low, like between Crowell and Wall. I just feel like they're going to give James Madison problems. I don't know. Kind of like what Carter said, like they beat Michigan State. I think that's why like everyone's going to pick them because they remember that because it was like opening night of the season. Other than that, like they just haven't played anyone. Another nice non D1 team. They beat Keystone 130-59. Those are always my favorite ones, the non Division 1 wins. But I'll go with the Badgers here.
I respect it. Again, I'm kind of just rooting against Wisconsin as well, so maybe a little bit biased. I think in the Big Ten tournament, like that Purdue game, which is a good matchup for them. Like I said, Braden Smith not healthy, and then Purdue doesn't really have anybody who can match up with Store. That is going to be the key. I mean, if James Madison can get somebody to guard him one-on-one, that'll be the difference maker. But it's definitely going to be tough. But perfect. We can go through a couple of these other ones. The 13-4 matchup here. One I'm not too excited about personally, but it is the 4-seeded Duke Blue Devils against the 13-seeded Vermont Catamounts. Vermont's back, man. I mean, are they ever going to do anything in the tournament? I think they've been here like the past 4 to 5 years or somewhere around there. Um, I don't know. And again, with Duke, like they have been prone to first round exits in the past, i.e. Mercer or Lehigh. Um, I don't think it's this year. I'm really down on the Catamounts, but Aiden, do you have any hope in an upset here?
No, not particularly. I think, like you said, Vermont keeps making it, keeps losing. I think this is like one of their weaker teams,
Yeah,
like just by the numbers. I can't say I've watched a whole lot of Vermont basketball this year, but I kind of like this Duke team. I think they might be a little underseeded as a four. I guess this is like where they belong, but I like them as a four. I think they're in a pretty good spot here. I think they'd probably roll against Vermont.
I agree. And statistical wise, the only thing that kind of jumps out for Vermont, they do have a top 25 defense, but Duke has a top 10 offense. So can they match up with McCain or Roach kind of one-on-one? I would be surprised. But Carter, what do you think about the Catamounts?
Yeah, I've seen better Vermont teams, and this Vermont team isn't doing it. And I think a lot of people will see Vermont and just say, "Oh, that's a name I've seen many times in the tournament." So I'm gonna just pick them to do this upset because also it's Duke and people don't like to pick Duke, but Duke's gonna get by here. So I have the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I agree. And then the last few here, actually, this next one is kind of interesting. The 3-seed Kentucky against the 14-seed Oakland. Kind of just a battle of some decent offense. Obviously, Kentucky top 10. Oakland was 28th in offensive efficiency. But the statistics I love here is the defensive efficiency. Kentucky's at 203 and Oakland's at 269. So I'll spoil my bet for this region too, but I like the over a lot in this game. I think we're gonna get as many points as possible, possibly the highest scoring first round game available. But I mean, obviously I just like the kind of young athletes of Kentucky a lot more. Dillingham is kind of that guy, I think, and might go off. And just kind of the young talent, Reeves, I love a lot too. Shepherd, obviously. But throw it back up to you again, Carter. I mean, any upset watch on this game?
No, Kentucky's like probably the most one-dimensional team I've seen play basketball this year. Just offensive juggernaut. And I did not know those stats about Oakland, so that makes me even more excited. Yeah, I'll go with the Wildcats here. To get by the Oakland Grizzlies, Bears,
There's some
Grizzlies.
sort of.
The
Yeah,
Golden
one of
Grizzlies.
those.
Ooh,
The Golden Grizzlies. Ooh, that
I
might
kind
change
of
my
want to
mind.
pick
No,
them.
I'll go Wildcats.
Yeah.
I'll go Wildcats. But also, we did see. I didn't love what I saw from Rob Dillingham lately. Had been playing very well just the last couple games, but I think we'll find that again. So Reed Shepard leading me to destiny.
I love me some Shepherd as well. Aiden, what do you think about this game?
I don't know. I don't really like this Oakland team. They played Dayton earlier in the year in non-conference and was like one of the rare bad teams that Dayton kind of crushed. I think we beat them by like 30, which is like if you let Dayton with our pace hang 90 points on you, I can't even imagine what Kentucky's going to do to you. They did play like they played Illinois and Drake pretty tough in the non-conference, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you, Kody. I like this Kentucky team a lot. I love their guards, and I think this definitely will be a very high scoring game. Like I would kind of be shocked if Kentucky doesn't put 100 on them, to be perfectly honest. But I will roll with the Wildcats here.
I agree. Well, amazing. And then moving on to the two higher seeds. I love this matchup as well. The 2-seed Marquette. This game is in Indy as well, going against the 15-seed Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. A fun note, and kind of the reason I love this game, Brandon Newman is a Purdue transfer, and I believe he's a starter for Western Kentucky, averaging around 10 points a game. He played decent in the championship game. So I like his points a lot. I'm definitely going to be betting on that. But I like Marquette a lot, obviously, here too. Aiden, any 15 seed upset you got here?
I don't think so. The only real thing is like, still haven't really heard much about Tyler Kolek. Like,
No.
we're all assuming he's going to be fine to play, but have no idea. It's college basketball. Like, you just don't really hear a lot about injuries. It's not like professional sports. The other thing to note with Western Kentucky is they lead the entire country in Ken Pomeroy's adjusted tempo stat. So basically, like they're the fastest paced team in the country. Something to note. I don't really think it's going to mean a whole lot against Marquette. I think even if they don't have Kolek, like they just got enough guys. Cam Jones is the animal. I don't know. I like I said, I'm not super impressed with any of these lower seeds this year. Then none of them are really catching my eye.
I will say I like that pace of play stat a lot. This is my sneaky upset watch, if I'm being honest. I think Western Kentucky, I like Marquette a lot, which I'll get into. I do have them going pretty deep. But if Kolek's not playing, I mean Cam Jones, like you said, is a dog. But this could be a fun one. Just see how it plays out.
The last pod, I think I tried to start the narrative that Marquette are frauds. So I also threw that out there. So I'm going to stick with that just as we get down the line. But no, I like them getting past the Hilltoppers. But I will say there's a Purdue transfer on Western Kentucky. Christian Lander from Indiana
Yeah.
also plays on Kentucky. So we've got the best of both worlds there for the Hilltoppers.
And the game's in Indy too. So they should both be pretty comfortable back in their
There
home
you go.
state. Shout out Lander. He's all right. He's not as good as Newman. But
No.
I'll throw it right back over to you, Carter, because you did make a comment about Longwood. You did make a comment about Longwood earlier.
Yes.
How do you like their odds against the one seed Houston here?
Not great. Yeah, I like the Cougars here. I love Calvin Sampson. He's I think probably my favorite coach in the country. Shout out the Indiana Hoosiers when he was here for a brief time. Yeah, I like them getting past Longwood here, obviously, and then just an electric game between them and Nebraska. That I would just love Nebraska to win, but I just don't love those odds. But yeah,
I need to see the Jamal Shed Tominaga matchup.
woo.
That's in my dreams every night. And any thoughts on Longwood here?
Watch out for Longwood in the first half of this game.
Mm,
I think I wouldn't be surprised. Houston last year, I think they were only up like 3 on the 16 seed last year.
Yeah.
And so I went through and I was looking at Kelvin Sampson under Houston. Last year as a 1 against a 16, up 3. The year before, he was a 12 against or a 5 versus a 12. Was up 9 against the 12 seed. It's pretty impressive. Year before that, he was playing a 15 seed, only up 8. And then before the COVID year, they're playing a 14 seed, up 9. Not like blasting these teams. I guess I'll just spill one of my favorite bets. I like Longwood plus 15.5 in the first half, especially.
Hmm.
I kind of wouldn't be shocked if Juwan Roberts didn't play, if
yeah.
they just rested him up for that Nebraska game. And if I was looking through their like on off stuff with him, when they don't have him on the floor, their offense is just so much worse. And I don't know if like their defense is pretty much the same. I don't know if that's just they don't like their backup big guys just aren't very good or what, but their offense just takes a huge hit without him. So I kind of like Longwood to keep it close in this first half. Obviously, I think Houston is going like if Longwood scores 50 points, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Houston's offense struggles a little bit, especially if they don't start Robert.
I think that's a massive factor. Obviously, if Robert's not playing, I mean, they're just different team. I would say maybe pound the cover for Houston, but I like the first half spread. I think that's creative. But we can jump into some of the other matchups here moving along. You already mentioned it, but I think Houston, Nebraska. Hopefully that game just happens just for my kind of psyche. I would probably lean the Cougars that way, and kind of I guess spoilers altogether. But I think Houston, in a sense, is a bit of a team of destiny this year. I think they've come up short a couple times, like their odds going very, very deep. So I feel bad for Tominaga, but I would probably lean that way there. And then still in the top half, I do like Duke as well to move on. Obviously, you guys have Wisconsin, which even if they did win, I still like that matchup a lot for Duke. But any parity from those two picks there from you guys?
No, that matches mine. I have Houston Duke
Yep, so
coming
do
out of
I.
that. So
Yeah. I feel like pretty straightforward on that. So on the bottom side, though, I mean, still the 2 and 3 seeds here, I feel like are pretty good. I do have Kentucky and Marquette both moving on. I mean, DJ Burns, if they do move on to the second round against a Big Z for Kentucky, is a matchup I need to see as well. So I'd be excited for that. And then again, Florida, I mean, they just made a good run in the SEC tournament. I think they could beat Marquette. But I'm really high in this Marquette team. Even if Kolek doesn't play like the first round, Cam Jones is an animal. Issa Iguodaro has improved a ton. Their bench is just like a bunch of solid guys. Shout out Ben Gold, who I kind of look like. But I also have Marquette beating Kentucky. Do you guys have that 2-3 matchup? And I guess who do you like there?
I have the 2-3 matchup of Kentucky and Marquette. I guess this is almost my chalkiest region in a sense, kind of when it levels out to it. But I have Kentucky with the slight edge over Marquette just to keep my Marquette fraud status secure. So I have Kentucky and Houston in the Elite Eight.
Love that. Aiden?
This is like, I think the hardest, like smaller portion of any of the regions for me. Like, I don't want to just go with the chalk, like the 1 through 4. It's kind of lining up that way. I will say, I think one of Marquette or Kentucky loses that second game, either to Florida or NC State. Kentucky's defense is just so bad. Like, I feel like it's easy to just remember how explosive they are. I don't know. I don't want to see. I think DJ Burns could put up a triple double against Kentucky. So I'll take NC State to beat Kentucky and then Marquette to beat NC State.
Oh, I love that. I would love to see as many games as DJ Burns as we can get in the tournament. So I'm completely on board. And then, I mean, going to the Final Four picks, I alluded to it earlier, but I'm definitely going with the Houston Cougars here. I'm kind of going a little bit boring this year. This next bracket may be absolute chaos, but I'm taking 2 1 seeds. I think Houston is just their defense is kind of on a next level. But I think a matchup with Marquette or Kentucky will be an absolute masterclass of a game. Who do you like going to the Final Four here, Carter?
Against my better judgment, I'm going with Kentucky.
Nice.
I just don't want to for some reason, I don't want to have 2 1 seeds in my Final Four.
That's fair.
And the 1 seed I have taken, shockingly, is coming up in the West for some reason. I'm all
Ooh,
over the map this year. I just love the chaos I'm ensuing. So far I have 4-3-2, and I'm going to get to the 1. So I have Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee in my Final Four right now.
I love that. If you don't predict the chaos, you're just doing it wrong.
That's
So
right.
no other way to do it. Aiden, who's your Final Four pick here?
I don't like that we have the same Final Four right now, Kody, but
Oh my God.
I agree, man. I mean, it's so hard for me not to pick Houston. I think I like their draw the best out of any of the 1 seeds.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's any team in this region. I will say if it's Houston, Kentucky in that Elite Eight, I think Kentucky's offense could give Houston enough problems. I think they're like obviously one of the few teams that offensively I think could really cause Houston some problems. Especially I have them play Marquette. I don't know. I think they're just due, right? Like getting Crier with Shed is just kind of unfair in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, they're kind of a team of destiny.
Yeah. The way that Shed has kind of improved offensively this year, I think is absolutely insane because he was already kind of the best defensive guard in the country and a really good passer. And then you bring his kind of offensive ability into the fold and adding a sharpshooter like LJ Crier. I think it's gonna be tough for them to get bounced. Again, I hope they do get bounced early, if I'm being honest, but I just don't know what's gonna happen. So wrapping up the South region, we did touch on a few of our betting advice. I'll kick off with a few already that I talked about. Oakland, Kentucky, over 163.5, I think is absolutely free. I actually bet on that yesterday because I'm afraid it's going to rise. NC State +5 is my other big one here too. Again, even if they don't kind of take down Texas Tech, I expect that to be a very close game regardless. But Carter, we'll kick off you this time, man. What do you like in this region?
You took my favorite, NC State. They're I think +5.5 right now. So yeah, I would hop on that. That's my pick here.
Get on the DJ Burns train early and often, baby.
Yes, sir. And I want to take Aiden's assist bet as well.
True. Well, same game parlay. I love that. Aiden, what do you like here?
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Burns' assists are 2.5, and his points plus assists are 15.5,
Oh,
which
man.
I think I like both of those. I won't lie. I do like them to cover against Texas Tech. I mean, pick them to make
Three
the
leg
Sweet
parlay.
16.
Yeah.
We can get behind something like that. Talks about my little Longwood first half. I like that you called that creative, Kody. That was a really nice way of saying that was stupid.
It'll probably hit though. I mean, it is creative. I would have never thought to bet that. I was giving you a compliment. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I think also just taking Nebraska, they're favored by 1.5.
Yeah.
I don't know. At that point, maybe just take the money line. I don't like leaving that up to chance when it's that low. But if that's basically a pick 'em, I think we're all in a consensus about Nebraska. So I like them as well.
Yeah. That was definitely on my short list as well. Well, amazing. That'll wrap up the South, and we'll move on to the last region here. Personally, it's my favorite region. It is the West, of course. like I said, a lot of chaos about to ensue on my side of things, so be prepared for that. But the first game that we want to talk about, of course, the 8-9 matchup here, another one of my favorites. It's the battle of the MSUs, Michigan State, the 9 seed, versus Mississippi State, the 8 seed. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this first because I have a bit of a controversial opinion on this bracket. But Aiden, who do you like here?
I hate Michigan State. I don't understand why they, first of all, I don't really even understand why they're in the field. I don't understand why they're a 9 seed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is my biggest gripe. I just like, they've played a bunch of quad one wins, a bunch of quad one games, I guess. Like their net rating is super high. I just don't see it at all. Like, obviously, Walker is an animal. Other than him, like, nobody else really scares me on that team. And I will say, I think like the March Izzo has gotten like a little overblown. When's the last time he made like a real run, like that 2019?
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. I think that might be a little bit overrated. And I feel like so many people are just going to see that Michigan State and just automatically just move them into the next round. So I got to be contrarian. I've already taken too many Big Ten teams as it is. So I will absolutely take Mississippi State to advance here.
Yeah. I think the brand name got Michigan State in, and it'll probably get a lot of people to pick them as well. But Carter, are you still rocking with the Big Ten here? What are you thinking, man?
For all the reasons Aiden said, I am, because I think they're going to just be like the, yeah, well, we'll show you kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And I agree with you about the Izzo March thing. Like, I think that's a little overblown. Yes, they had that awesome game against Marquette last year in March, and they went to the Sweet 16. And I think that was it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I like them just with the slight edge here, but I do like Mississippi State, and I would not be shocked at all if they pull it out. But I'm just rocking with the Izzo proving the haters wrong kind of thing.
I respect it.
Don't love it though.
The 8-9 is very, very hard. I'm gonna rock with Mississippi State as well. If you listen to our last episode, them in South Carolina out of the SEC, I really, really love. Um, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, AJ Hoggard, I think is going to be the X factor for Michigan State. He's been playing a little bit better down the stretch. If he can score and if he can shoot the three ball, I think they might keep it close. But I think the size factor is going to come in massively here. Michigan State's bigs, I just don't like at all. They got
Yeah.
that Cooper guy who's like white guy 7-footer, terrible. They got Matty Sissoko, again, that Perry Ellis effect. When he's going to graduate? They finally moved him to the bench this season, and he's been terrible. Uh, Mississippi State's big guys, Tolu Smith, absolute unit. They're not going to be able to guard him. And then Cam Matthews, I think, had a bit of a coming out in the SEC tournament. He's just posterizing dudes left and right on Tennessee, which I love to see. And I mentioned this guy in the last episode as well, but Josh Hubbard, I think, is the X factor of the tournament. I think he's sort of like Tominaga, but actually, they're about the same height and they chuck about the same amount of threes. So watch out for him in the next game, wink, wink. But I am going to go out with the Bulldogs here in game one. But this is also, I believe, the first game of the entire tournament on Thursday. So it'll be absolutely
Ooh.
electric. The adrenaline will be flowing, and I'm sure Izzo will be screaming at the refs. So I'm excited to see it. But amazing. Of course, we have to go on to our next matchup, the 7-10 here in the West. It, of course, features the 7 seed Dayton Flyers, who I know you were a little bit worried about them even getting in the field at one point, Aiden. And they are matched up with a Mountain West team, the 10 seed Nevada Wolfpack. But going back to that moment, I know you were texting me kind of panicking because this was the last region announced. Were you genuinely worried that Dayton wasn't in the field?
I was. We ended the year so poorly. Like once February hit, we just haven't played a complete game in like a month and a half. And our non-conference wins just didn't end up really being all that great. Like we don't have really bad losses, which I think is why we got in and we played a good non-conference strength of schedule. But yeah, man, taking us down to the wire like that, like the committee was really doing me dirty. The third to last team announced, fourth to the last, I guess. I was absolutely panicking. So I started going to Dayton in 2017. It was the year after Archie left, was my freshman year. So this will be the first time I ever get to see my Flyers in the NCAA tournament because obviously
Cool.
the 2020 year got canceled. Then we've come close the last couple of years.
You were like the first team out like 2 years ago or something, right? It was something
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, that year that Richmond they got the automatic qualifier from
Yeah.
the A10. We were the first team out, and then last year we lost in the A10 championship. So obviously couldn't pull it out in the conference tourney this year, but just getting to the tournament, I am personally pretty happy with. I'm hoping the team is not just satisfied with that. I would love to win a couple games. And I think this matchup with Nevada is actually pretty decent. Like, we haven't played very well down the stretch, but as far as like teams we could have drawn, I don't hate it. I do think Nevada is a little underseeded as a 10. I feel like they deserve to be higher than that, but they kind of play a similar style to us where they don't play super fast. They'd rather slow it down. Pretty decent on defense, get to the line a lot. I don't know. I don't really think I can talk about this game unbiasedly just because I feel like my anticipation has just been building for like the last 6 years. So, of course, I'm going to pick my Flyers. I will say we're going to have the best player on the court regardless. Deron Holmes, absolute dog. Second team, All American, got announced today. So I have to take my Flyers in this first game.
Yeah. He's right on the fringe of first team, too. I think it was coming down to the wire there. I'll throw a straight over to you, though, Carter. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
This is my chaos region.
Same.
So I apologize, Aiden, but I'm just going Nevada because as I just kept going, and we'll get to it later, I kept picking these double digit seeds. And I was like, well, let's just fuck it. Let's just keep it rolling. I haven't watched a lot of Dayton this year also, to be fair, but I have watched a bit of Nevada, Mountain West. So, and again, all these Mountain West teams are like play really similar ball. And yeah, I don't know. And also Steve Alford, my boy. So former Hoosier. So I'm gonna roll with the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Wolfpack guy this year, I guess.
I respect it. I do like Steve Alford a lot too, even though he did go to IU. And I apologize for saying this, Aiden, but I'm going to pick Nevada here as well. I think this is a really good matchup. Dayton offensively, obviously, is very, very good. But I think they're going to need more than Deron Holmes to take over. I think, I mean, they need Brea to obviously kind of shoot it like he does. But I think Cheeks and Elvis are the big X factors. If all three of those guys put up like 10 to 15 points, I might lean Dayton's way, but I just don't know if they're going to do that. And then Nevada, like we said, I think they're criminally underrated. I believe they finished second in the Mountain West regular season. They did get bounced pretty early in the tournament. Well, they do have a couple really good players. The first one is Jared Lucas, who is an absolute certified sniper. This guy will hit a shot from anywhere on the court. I think coming into the tournament, probably nobody knows who this guy is, but I think by the end of it, a lot of people are going to know that guy's name. And then his point guard backcourt duo, Kanan Blackshear, is averaging about 15, 5, and 5 right now, which is probably the most one of the better stat lines for a guy I haven't even heard of. So shout out to that guy as well. But I got the Wolfpack rolling. I got them rolling a few games after this as well, which we'll get into. But it's going to be tough. This is another coin flip game. I think if Dayton offensively performs, it'll be tough. But I hate to pick against your squad there, Aiden, but I'm rolling with the Wolfpack.
Hey, that's all right, man. You can just join the doubters, man. Well, I want you to be as loud when we win as you are now.
I was
So
expecting you guys to hate on Purdue, so I came up with my guns blazing against the Flyers. But we can keep moving along here. Another matchup I really love here in the 6-11 slot is the 6-seeded Clemson Tigers against the 11-seeded Mountain West Tournament champions, New Mexico Lobos. And I'll kick us off here. If you listened to our last podcast, I was already pretty high on the Lobos, and it looks like they pretty much had to win the tournament to get in, which I think is a little bit strange because I think they're a pretty good team. But the big thing too, they beat San Diego State in that championship game without one of their best guards, Dent. He had he was sick or something, and he played like 5 minutes, but he literally couldn't even like run around on the floor, which was weird why they even brought him in. But basically, if he's healthy, he's absolutely gross. I was looking at his points too. It's around like 12 and a half right now. Pound that if that guy's healthy. Jalen House took over, kind of made him a name for himself in the tournament, which I love. And then Jamal Mashburn kind of finally found his jumper in that championship game as well. So I think they are extremely dangerous. And talking about Clemson a little bit too, I mean, ACC only got, what was it, 5 bids with the bid steal and Virginia getting in somehow. Yeah, obviously, Carolina and Duke. I don't really know how Clemson got such a high seed. They had a good non-conference run, but then they ended up finishing sixth in the ACC regular season. And like teams like Pitt, who did better than them, weren't even kind of near consideration, and Clemson got a six. I do like the roster. I mean, Joe Girard and PJ Hall, I think, is a fun duo, but I'm definitely rocking with the Lobos here.
I am as well. We talked about them last week, being just a really fun team to watch. Eddie House going, "That's my son" in the stands, electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got them getting past Clemson here as well. So I'm high on the Lobos.
So I'm very high, as you'll see here. But Aiden, your thoughts on this game?
I mean, I absolutely love this New Mexico team. I'm not gonna lie, I think they're gonna run Clemson out of the gym.
Yeah.
Like if they beat them by double digits, I would not be surprised whatsoever. Like this Clemson team just kind of not impressive at all in a week. ACC, like you said, like they had a pretty good non-con. They did beat Bama, which is like their big win.
Yeah.
They just lost to Boston College by 21 in the ACC tournament, man. Like that's brutal. They lost to Notre Dame to close out the year, lost to Wake. Like, I don't know. I don't see it. And I feel like the pace is going to be pretty big in this game. Like, if New Mexico can just get some easy transition looks early and just get them down a couple buckets and make them want to run, I don't see how Clemson is going to win unless they slow it down and make it into like a half court game with Hall. But I think New Mexico cruises.
I agree. JT Toppin as well, another player on the Lobos. Is he related to Obi? He's got
No, he's not. It's
sad.
crazy though. I know everyone was asking me at the beginning of the year, but unfortunately not related to Obi Toppin.
I definitely thought he was, but that's funny. Oh, also one tiny note, but well, I guess I'll save it actually. But New Mexico I like, and we can go on to upset alert here. A lot of fun matchups on the lower sided seeds as well. Obviously, kicking off with 12-5, the 5 seed St. Mary Gales, of course, the West Coast Conference tournament champions. Shout out to them. And then the 12 seeded Grand Canyon, who again, one of those teams where, not the highest strength of schedule, but they don't have too many losses to show for them. I'll play my cards off the bat. I do like Grand Canyon here to win this game. I am picking 3 out of 4 of the 12 seeds to move on. I feel like probably 2 out of 3 of those will win. So kind of just playing the probability game. But again, kind of the more in-depth stats on Grand Canyon I like a lot. They have a top 5 defense, which is amazing. And then St. Mary's has a top 3 defense. So if we're talking over under here, I am pounding the under in this game. I think it might be 48-50 final score. But I don't know. I think St. Mary's is just a little bit fraudulent. And I'd love to see both those West Coast teams lose in the first round. That kind of make my day.
Yeah, I really like the Lopes. They got a guy, Tyan Grant Foster, who was like a former top recruit. He started at Kansas, went
Oh,
to DePaul, just like one of those guys who just never found his footing. And he's like one of the reasons, I don't know, one of the stories of the portal really doing good by guys because he came into Grand Canyon with Bryce Drew and it's just absolutely thrived. Like he won whatever the WAC, the WAC
oh, the
player of
WAC.
the year. Yeah, I know. It's like,
Yeah.
what
I don't know what
conference are
conference.
they in? One WAC player of the year. I actually like the St. Mary's team personally. I don't know. I think Mahaney's pretty good. Obviously they're a great defense. Grand Canyon is my favorite 12 seed and have to pick them here.
Respect it. Carter, you like the Gales here or rocking with the upset?
No, make it 3 for 3. I'm with you guys.
Yeah.
I like the Grand Canyon, and again, this is my chaos region. So, yeah, I'm rolling Grand Canyon here as well.
I back it entirely. We can keep moving on here. Another interesting matchup, first round. The 4 seeded Alabama Crimson Tide taking on Charleston, who again I feel like kind of similar conversation with Vermont earlier. But these guys kind of always get in. Similar with this Colgate team, which we'll talk about next too. But I don't know. This will be a fun game, I think. Again, Bama second rated offense efficiency, and then Charleston can put up the points as well. So I'd say over to the moon here again. And I mean, Mark Hughes is that guy. Bama, they're just going to chuck threes and not really care about anything else. So I do like their odds here just because of the way Charleston plays. But Carter, upset alert here, or you like the Tide?
I'm gonna roll with it. I'm still going Charleston.
Ooh,
I
love
don't I don't love the way Alabama has finished their season. I know that they're gonna shoot the lights out and just jack up threes but I don't know. Just part of me is like Charleston was a fraud last year. I think we warned everyone about that going into it. Everyone was high on them. So I'm going just the complete opposite this year, just to be devil's advocate. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna let the Cougars get in through past Bama here.
I love it. I will definitely be rooting for the Cougs. Aiden, what's your thoughts here, man?
feel like Charleston, like the way they play with Pat Kelsey, he wants to be Nate Oates. Like they want to be Alabama with their play styles.
Definitely.
The problem is, I think this isn't even my thought. Alabama's athletes are just on a different level and their talent is just so much better. I do not trust Alabama's defense whatsoever to make a run, but I think they might put up 100 points on Charleston in this first round. And I believe the over under 173.5, I believe I saw today, is the highest over under for an NCAA tournament game in history
Wow.
of, which I don't know how they judge when like books were illegal. Like, where are they getting this information dating back to like the 80s and 90s? But for what it's worth, going to be a super high scoring game. Should be a lot of fun, but I do think Alabama cruises here.
Yeah, I agree. And even with that high over, I still like it by a wide margin. So I'm on board. But amazing. Moving on to the 14-3 matchup. I mentioned, of course, Colgate is the 14 seed, and they're battling the Baylor Bears in that 3 slot, which I feel like they're in pretty consistently. Kind of similar to Charleston. I see Colgate in here all the time. I think last year, Colgate was one of your sleepers, Aiden. So shout out to them. But I don't like their odds too much this year. Baylor, great guards. Hopefully, Langston Love will be back some point in this tournament, and he'll just add to that. And Yves Missi is that guy. So I'm definitely riding with the Bears here. In any thoughts on your Colgate boys?
Yeah, I was in on Colgate to beat Texas last year. I just picked the wrong 2 seed, man.
True.
But
Close.
no, not this year. I think they were a much better team last year. Like they were rated much higher on offense. Like they still like to take a bunch of threes this year. Problem is they're just not as good at making them as some of the other Colgate teams. And I'm kind of with you. I really like Baylor. That Baylor New Mexico potential second round matchup is like one of my favorite potential matchups in the field. So I don't think they're gonna have much of a problem with Colgate.
This is where my chaos ends. I'm taking Baylor as well. The Bears are like almost a team of destiny this year. I know they made it out of the first round last year, or they didn't make it out. No, they did. They lost the next game. So yeah, I'm just gonna roll with Baylor here as well.
I respect the chaos has to end at some point, but I love it. Oh, and Jesus. And then these next 2 games will be interesting too. I'll start us off with the 15-2 matchup here. The 15 seed, of course, is Long Beach State. And then the 2 seed is those Arizona Wildcats, who back in that 2 slot, they gotta be a little bit nervous. Um, my thoughts, I think Arizona's gonna fall into this Purdue brand of losing early in the tournament. And we were talking about storytelling earlier, Carter, and I'll tell you what, the story with Long Beach State's coach here is pretty amazing. Before the conference tournament, the school was like, "Hey, we're parting ways. We we don't need you to come back next year," and they go on to win their conference tournament. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if I should do this, but I'm going to pick them to beat Arizona in the first round.
Let's go.
And it's pretty much just everything to do with Caleb Love and the way that he's been playing. I mean, if he's like 5 for 5 from three in the first half, scratch this completely. But their last game against Oregon, he was 2 for 11 from the field, 1 for 7 from three. He had 6 points and 4 turnovers. I think if he continues to play like that, they literally will not beat anybody in the field. Also, he's a terrible defender, if that needed to be said. But yeah, this is kind of my out there pick. And like I said, I think this bracket specifically will be a little bit chaotic. And even if they don't win this game, I like Nevada's odds in the next round anyways. But I'm guessing both you guys definitely have Zona in this game.
Yeah, I took the Wildcats because I'm looking for a different storyline coming down the pipe here in this region. So I went with the Zona here.
I love that. There's so many different storylines, but one of them
There
will...
are. One of them will win.
True. You like Long Beach State here, Aiden? What are you thinking?
I mean, the story's cool. I kind of have beef with Long Beach State. UC
Oh,
Irvine, who they beat in the Big West tournament, was like one of my favorite mid-major teams this year. And I was very excited to take them as like a 13 or 14 in the first round. And they ruined that dream for me. And the other thing, I think my roommate is really into this Long Beach State team as well against
okay.
Arizona. I was going through some of their stuff today, and they take, I think, the highest rate of mid-range jumpers out of any team in the field.
Yeah.
Auto L for me. Take Arizona by 20. I locked them in last year to beat the 15 seed, and we're running it back this year. I don't even
Let's
know what the spread is, but I will be hammering that.
It is, yesterday it was 20 and a half, plus
Oh
20 and a
man,
half Long
that's a
Beach.
lot of points. Maybe not,
Uh,
but I do like Arizona to win outright.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I back you got to lock it in after last year too, just to make up for it. But amazing. We can move on to the last first round matchup. And of course, the one seeded North Carolina Tar Heels against the playing game. I believe it is going on right now, actually. Howard versus Wagner. I'm pretty sure Wagner's up too, because I got a text saying that they were getting whooped pretty good.
Wagner's up 10 with 10 minutes to go in the second half.
Nice. I bet on Howard's one of their players played at Ohio State for a couple years, and then he took like 2 years off.
Oh,
And
he's like 40 years old.
yeah, he was the player of the year in some smaller conference before. Seth Towns is his name.
Yeah.
So hopefully he scores like 13 points to help me out. But
He
and
has 13 points.
I think that was his over. Yep.
He's at it.
I think it
So
was 12 and a half. So that's perfect.
nice.
But any FDU magic going on here for you guys?
No,
I would be shocked. Well,
sorry.
shout out Carolina. We can keep moving swiftly on because, like Carter was saying, I think this bracket will be madness, and I'd love to start with Carolina in the 8-9 matchup. Obviously, I took Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State is a good matchup against North Carolina, and I will be taking the Bulldogs over them. I feel like every year you probably see an 8-9 beat a one seed at some point. Fingers crossed it's not Purdue this year, which could very likely happen. But if it's not them, I love the Bulldogs. I already mentioned already, but I think Baycott against Tolu Smith. I was looking at their height and weight. They're basically both 6'11", 240. So they basically are the exact same height and weight. So I think that'll be an awesome matchup to watch. And then again, it's kind of Hubbard versus RJ Davis at that point of who's going to make more threes. Um, I really just don't trust Cormac Ryan, if I'm being completely honest. I think one of these games he's going to struggle a lot, and when he doesn't shoot the ball well, I think they're super vulnerable. But I don't know. You obviously had Michigan State, Carter. Do you like the Spartans there, or are you riding with the heels?
I don't. I can go ahead and just spoiler alert here, just to show where my intentions are going. I want that Caleb Love North Carolina rematch in the Elite Eight. So I'll just go ahead and rattle through that. I got North Carolina getting past Sparty. I got Grand Canyon getting past Charleston. So I really have the chaos in this region, and then it all evens out to the 1-2 in the Elite Eight. And then I do have New Mexico getting past Baylor because I think that would be electric.
Yeah.
And then I have Zona getting past Nevada and New Mexico. So just rattling through all of the West Coast teams to get back to the Caleb Love game of destiny.
Yeah, that would be a cool matchup. And honestly, I would probably be rooting for Caleb Love in that scenario. So props to him, even though I hope they lose first round. But going back to that New Mexico Baylor game, you already mentioned too, Aiden, but I think out of all of the potential matchups, that's one of the one I'm most excited for. Just because I don't know if any other teams in the country have as good of three guard lineup than Baylor or New Mexico. I mean, Baylor is absolutely disgusting as well. Ray J. Dennis, Jacoby Walter, and then Nunn, the transfer from VCU. And like I said, if they have Langston Love back at that point, he's also very, very good. So I don't know. I think just New Mexico's ability to kind of drive and shoot, kind of the double trouble, I do lean them as well. And spoiler alert, Carter too. I got New Mexico going all the way to the Final Four.
Let's go.
I don't know if it's
Wow.
kind of a crazy pick here. But obviously with Zona losing in the bottom side too, I do have Nevada going to the Sweet 16. So a little Mountain West love with a shot to, go to the Elite Eight. And then on the top side, I think I don't it's tough because I don't really like any of the teams on the top side other than Carolina, which I think Mississippi State is just a bad matchup for them. So I think I'm going to ride with Bama all the way to Elite Eight, which I don't really trust them. I think they could lose first round pretty easily. But I think with these matchups, if they do play Charleston, Grand Canyon, and then Mississippi State, who they already beat this year once, I think I like them in all three of those games. But again, if St. Mary's wins, that could be an issue. If North Carolina wins, that could be an issue. So I think by default, I'm taking Bama to the Elite Eight, but they will get dethroned by the Lobos, of course, who are going to the Final Four. But a couple of chaotic brackets, which I love there. Aiden, give us your rundown here. I'm sure it's a bit more traditional, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like we were honestly like pretty in tune with the other three
Uh-oh.
regions. Like it seemed like for the most part, we
Okay.
Blow
were
up.
kind of all on the same page. And I mean, this is the chaos region for
We've
sure.
lost it.
Kody, you said you have New Mexico in your Final Four.
I do.
As soon as the bracket came out, I took New Mexico plus 2,500 to win this region.
Wow.
Dude, this Lobos team is awesome. Like, I
Let's
think
go.
I think whoever wins that New Mexico Baylor game is who I think will win this region.
Yep.
As crazy as that sounds, I think the second round game is going to decide the region. I like North Carolina to get past Mississippi State. I like North Carolina to get past them there. I think I'm buying the Lopes. I like the 12 and the 11 in this region. I like Grand Canyon to get past Alabama.
Oh,
Just don't like Bama's defense at all. Really
yeah.
hard for me to trust them. New Mexico Baylor, I'm just going to keep going back and forth. For sake of being different with one of my Final Four teams, I'm going to take Baylor here, Kody. We'll see on the actual pools what those are looking like.
Yeah.
I know I think whoever wins this Dayton Nevada game is going to beat Arizona. I'm not going to lie. And I am totally in on this Caleb Love versus North Carolina revenge game. And I will 100%, like you guys said, be in on Caleb Love in that scenario. Who's going to root for North Carolina? What are we doing? I think Dayton or Nevada, like, if they can slow Arizona down and make them play half court basketball, I think they have the perimeter defenders to give Caleb Love problems. And like we've seen when he is, I don't know if it's like a mental thing or what, because we know Caleb Love can light it up.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but when he is off, man, we know he's just almost a
Yeah.
liability out there. So just to summarize here, I have North Carolina against Grand Canyon. I like North Carolina in that one. And then I have Baylor and Dayton. I'll take Baylor to beat my Flyers and then Baylor to make the Final Four.
I love that. Yeah, I think I agree with that too. If Baylor does beat the Lobos there, I think they would be my favorite to win the region as well. But I think this one is the most wide open region out of any of them by far.
I just thought of this too. How fun would it be to get a Lopes versus Lobos Elite Eight? It'd be
Absolutely.
pretty electric.
That'd be electric. I'm here for it. Well, amazing, boys. Wrapping up the what region is this? I don't even know. What is this?
The West.
The West. Wrapping up the West here with a couple of our favorite bets. I'll kick us off again here. I already mentioned it, but Long Beach State plus 20.5. I think that should be pretty free. And then we talked about that over in Bama Charleston, 173.5. And then I mentioned this too, but the Grand Canyon St. Mary's, I like under 131.5. I think that'll be a defensive showdown. But we'll throw it over to the expert for his last picks. What do you like in this region?
I think I said it when we were first talking about New Mexico and Clemson. It's that minus 1.5. I think it's up to 2.5 now.
Yeah.
That's my favorite bet of the first round. Absolutely love that. The rest of them, I like Grand Canyon to cover. I think it's like 6.5 against St. Mary's. I don't know. I'd tell you to bet on Dayton, but that would probably be a mistake. I will say the one thing with Dayton. So Kobe Brea is one of our 3-point shooters. He's our sixth man, but like, I don't know why he's our sixth. He plays more minutes than anyone.
Yeah.
He's the best shooter in the country. He's shooting like 50% from three. He is the nation's leading 3-point shooter. They have not had his props on any sportsbook all year, and they finally have them. They have his threes on FanDuel and DraftKings. So that is my big player prop. Kobe Brea, 3+ made threes. I think on DraftKings you can get at plus money, which is just insane. Absolute sniper. I need to shout that out because I've been waiting for it all year and they finally delivered.
I love that. That is free. Like you said, statistically speaking, he is by far the best shooter in the country, and it's not even really close. So I will probably jump on that. Carter, any picks you like here?
I'm going to defer to Aiden on this region, but I am going to hop back over because we have breaking news that Kevin McCullough will miss the tournament with a bone bruise.
Wow.
So I want to hop back over to that Kansas money line again and just be wary of that. So McCullough is out. We don't know about Dickinson. So
wow.
maybe you want to rethink some things there. I don't know, but just want to throw that out there because that just came up on my feed.
Breaking news: a Woj bomb from Carter.
A Woj bomb in the middle of the pod.
I love that. Well, might have to revisit some of our Kansas region. I mean, that's good news for Purdue, but also probably good news for Gonzaga, which is fun. But amazing. Well, boys, I think that wraps up the 4 regions. Of course, we do want to talk about our overall winners. So again, we can kind of just run through our final 4, and I can start us off here, but pretty similar to Aiden's, I think here, but taking obviously UConn and New Mexico matching up. I do like UConn in that battle. They kind of have the defensive guards to match up with New Mexico, which I don't think they'll see much in this tournament. And then again, the 1 seed Houston against Creighton, the 3 seed. I'm going to be boring here and take the Houston Cougars. I think defense beats offense most days, and Houston is disgusting. My natty, it's tough. I'm going to go the Huskies back to back, though. I don't know if anybody can go back to back. It's this UConn team. And usually when I pick people to win the tournament, they lose pretty early. So fingers crossed on that. Oh, and also I wanted to say before, last time New Mexico, I took them to the Final Four. It was like 2014. They were like a 3 seed because they won the Mountain West tournament. I took them to the Final Four and they actually lost first round. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Clemson, I know you're probably listening to this, but also a big thing here too. We're handing out hoopies again. And my pre-tourney hoopie, excuse me, it's Tristan Newton. I mean, he's that guy. He gets triple doubles without even trying. And yeah, I like the Huskies a lot. But we can throw it over you, Carter. Talk to us about your Final Four, man.
Yeah, so I have one, two, three, four. I have North Carolina, Auburn, Tennessee, and Kentucky in my Final Four. So I do have North Carolina getting past that Arizona game because we're all going to want Arizona to win, and then North Carolina is going to win it. I'm very contrarian this year, and I love it. So I have Auburn beating North Carolina to finally kind of end that. Big on the Bruce Pearl train still, so I'm still riding there. And then over at Tennessee, Kentucky, obviously a nice rematch. I've got Tennessee with the edge here finally, kind of getting past Wildcats over there. And then I got Auburn, Tennessee in my championship game. And you've heard it all pod. I'm riding with Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers for my champion this year. No one's picking them, so I'm picking them. I'm going with Auburn.
Love that. 3 SEC teams in your Final Four too, which I didn't realize. I like that a lot.
I
Who's
know.
your
I'm giving my hoopie to, well, part of me wants to give it to Dalton Connect, just even though he'll lose the game
yeah.
in this in scenario. But if that's the case, I'll give it to Broom, to just sweep it up because he's very cocky right now, and I love it. He's like, we're not going to lose again, so I'm all for it. Shit heel, I love it.
I love it too. You can give it to Connect. We make our own rules here,
All
but
right, well, I'll give it to him too.
good pick regardless. Aiden, break down your Final Four for us, man.
My Final Four, I got UConn against Baylor, the Huskies in that one. And then on the other side, I have the same as you, Kody, Houston and Creighton. I think Creighton has a sneaky chance in that game. And I would not be surprised. Like, I really want to have a UConn Creighton, an all Big East final after all this hoopla about them only getting 3 teams. But I do think I've been leaning on UConn kind of all season. But if Roberts is healthy for Houston, I do think this is finally the year that they win it. The defense is just disgusting. And I'm going to get a little spoiler for my hoopie. Maybe it's a Jamal Shed. Like you had talked about a little bit early, Kody, his growth offensively, like being more than just a playmaker, being able to create his own shot. And I feel like he's just gotten so much better, just catch and shoot as well. He's not very reliable the last couple of years. I think he's at least a threat out there this year. So I'll give him my hoopie, and I will take the Houston Cougars. Kelvin Sampson fired from IU to win a championship with Houston. Sorry, Carter.
We'll take half of that championship. That's fine. We'll take credit.
You get some credit for that, yeah. Well, amazing, boys. That will wrap up our episode on the 2024 bracket breakdown. Like I said off the top, I just really, really enjoy kind of going through all the games and talking about our picks. So I appreciate you boys coming on. Carter, of course, always a pleasure. Aiden, of course, as well, man. Appreciate you having on as a guest. Definitely plug some of your stuff. I believe you've been doing some other podcasting recently here, right?
Yeah, so I do I got pieces on our Fanduel research site every day, but then last week I went on we have a podcast called Covering the Spread, just like daily betting. Our host Jim Sanas, he kind of covers all sorts of sports. He brings on all different kinds of guests. So I went on last week. Kody had mentioned it. Went 7-0 on my picks. Not really sure how that happened. Pretty good first introduction. Was very happy with it. Just recorded an episode today that'll come out on Thursday, going through all the Friday games. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Yeah, go check that out. And of course, Carter as well. RCR is still humming. I have loved you guys this past couple episodes. What's coming up for you guys?
Yes, Zero. First of all, I'm definitely going to check out that podcast because I want some insight. So thank you for that. Yeah. This week, if you know, amidst all the hubbub of March Madness, we're talking some DreamWorks animated movies this week. So on Friday, if you need a little break from March Madness, if your team is lost, check us out. We're doing a tier ranking of all the DreamWorks animated movies. So in honor of Kung Fu Panda 4, which was pretty mid. So check us out there, and then we'll get some March Madness branded things coming next week down the pipe. So stay tuned there at the Rough Cut Retrospective.
Love that. Obviously, check that out. I'll say Rise of the Guardians, underrated DreamWorks. I'll defend that to the
Huge.
to the end of Earth. Obviously, as well, stay tuned for more pick and roll on Cap. I don't know when our next episode will be. Last year we did kind of a Final Four breakdown because I was kind of depressed about Purdue losing early. So if they do lose early again, that is what I would expect. But stay tuned regardless. But appreciate you boys and stay capping. Peace.
Peace.